Everybody ready? Overflow, and we will just wait extra long after I call names for public comment for folks to make their way in. And if you're in the hall, same rules. So, councilors, I'm going to call this meeting to order for May 7th, 2024, and ask you all to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. If there's any member of the public that wishes to speak to the council on an item that's not on the agenda, go ahead and come forward. Thank you. City Clerk, call the roll. First,
Gabriel.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
Somerville.
Here.
Cumbie.
Here.
Harrington.
here.
That's 9 present and 0 absent, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That'll be the first in a long series of parliamentary mistakes I make, but that's okay. We'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. If there's a member of the public wishing to speak to the council on an item that is not on our agenda this evening, please come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes. We will just need your name at the beginning. Okay. Seeing none, we will close public comment period for non-agenda items, move on to the Vice Mayor for a motion for changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the following changes to the agenda be approved to add executive session to item 18.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. City Clerk?
Aye.
Mayor, if I could just clarify that the executive session for the public is on land negotiations.
Thank you, City Clerk. Motion and second okay with that change? Okay. Just to add land negotiation.
Land negotiation, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Okay. Vice Mayor, motion to set the agenda.
Thank you. I move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Okay. And that was, City Clerk, I apologize. That was a motion by Cumbie, second by Newman. All right. We are at proclamations, and I have the pleasure of reading Kids to Park Day. Whereas May 18, 2024 is the 14th Kids to Park Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the 3rd Saturday of May. Whereas Kids to Park Day empowers kids to encourages families to get outdoors and visit local parks, public lands, and waters. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And the Vice Mayor would know that one out of hand. But and whereas
That's high cholesterol.
See, if I were just smarter. Whereas Kids to Park Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors, and whereas Kids to Park Day will recognize the importance of recreating responsibly while enjoying the benefits of the outdoors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brian Harrington, acting as the Mayor and President of the governing body of the City of Laramie, Wyoming, do hereby proclaim May 18, 2024 as Kids to Park Day and encourage families of Laramie to get outside and visit local parks. And City Clerk, do we have anybody here for this item? Okay.
Mayor, this is requested through Assistant City Manager Feeser. I believe he is in the basement possibly right now.
Yeah, he is probably saving space for somebody else to have a seat, so we will get this to him, but I appreciate that. And I'm going to recognize Councilor Gabriel for the next proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a proclamation from the City of Laramie about Tennis Month, whereas on May 21st, 1881, the USTA, originally known as the United States National Lawn Tennis Association, was founded in New York City to create rules and standards for the emerging game of lawn tennis. whereas the USTA is the nonprofit national governing body for tennis in the United States, leads the promotion and growth of the sport at every level of play, from beginners to professionals at the U.S. Open, and whereas the USTA proudly partners with local tennis programs to showcase the important health, social, and educational benefits of tennis and make the sport available to everyone, regardless of age, environment, condition, or ability, through its USTA National Junior Tennis and Learning Programs and Adaptive Tennis Grants. Whereas the latest research by the Physical Activity Council shows that more than 23.6 million Americans play tennis in 2022, an unprecedented 33% increase in participation over 2019. And whereas the Alpine Tennis Association was founded in Laramie with a mission to promote, develop, and ensure the sport of tennis is available and accessible to all in the Laramie community. And whereas the tennis imparts characteristics such as hard work, perseverance, sportsmanship, determination, grit, positive thinking, problem-solving teamwork, and social skills to players in our community. Whereas by increasing the accessibility of tennis for Laramie citizens of all ages and ability, the USTA and the Alpine Tennis Association have contributed to making our community happier and healthier. And whereas the USTA has declared the month of May as National Tennis Month to encourage players, organizations, providers, facilities, retailers, parks and rec, schools, etc., to promote, showcase tennis, and spread the word about the sport and its benefits, and help players and non-players alike find courts and play opportunities in their communities. Now, therefore, I, Pat Gabriel, acting on the behalf of Mayor Brian Harrington, do hereby designate the week of May 20th through the 24th of this year as May Tennis Month in Laramie, and hereby urge the citizens of Laramie to become aware of and involved in Tennis Month activities this May of 2024 and pursue further tennis opportunities throughout the year. And we have a number of people here with us. We have Annie, we have Lee, Ellen, Julie, David, and Elizabeth. If you would all come forward, please.
Please, please.
And some children, come on up.
Hey, Counselor, do you want to pass that around? So I'll sign it? Well, thank you all for being here. And if you would like to take a photo, you can come all the way up with us if you'd like.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, you ought to. You ought to.
Maybe Mayor Coach Clower wants to add a couple of comments or two.
Just like to say thank you very much for supporting the mission. So on behalf of USTA Wyoming, Alpine Tennis Association, Laramie High School Tennis, and the University of Wyoming Tennis, thank you for supporting our mission of growing tennis to inspire health in people and in communities everywhere. So thank you very much for that support.
Yeah, thank you. We sure appreciate you being here. And really, if you want to come up, we'll stand for a photo with you. That way I can hand you the proclamation too. This door here just swings open. You can come all the way up here with us. And then just pile in up here.
I think I only got to come up here for jury duty. Oh, I thought you were like this.
Yeah, come all the way back. Thank you all for being here. You guys can hold this up for the picture so we can see them. You should. You can cover my face with it. All right, guys, if you can't see the camera, I can't see you.
A little bit higher.
Picture.
All right. Thank you.
Here's one of the chairs. There we go. Hey, good to see you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I can't get my agenda, so would you stand by for that first one? I've got that first one. I can't, for some reason, it's not. I'm going to keep trying here.
All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to move to the public hearing. City Clerk?
Something's not right here.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held at 6:30 p.m. on August 16, 2024 in City Council Chambers, Laramie City Hall, 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. The meeting shall be held on both on Zoom and in person to take public comment on the following: original ordinance number 2084, amending the City of Laramie's official zoning map to rezone approximately 4.1 acres of Lot 1, Block 1 of Boulder Addition from O District to Limited Business District. The applicant for the project is the City of Laramie. All applications, plans, and specifications relative to these matters are available for review at the City of Laramie Planning Office, 405 Grand Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present at the City Council member or via Zoom. Just of note that on the May 16th agenda, City Council did postpone this by motion to today's meeting on May 7th.
Thank you, City Clerk. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this public hearing? If you're on Zoom, you just go ahead and raise your hand.
Yeah.
Please come forward.
Am I supposed to wait until you're talking about the parking lot?
Yes. Yeah, this is just the public hearing on a rezoning of a different lot. We'll be there shortly, but yes. I will make it very clear, because I'm assuming everyone is here for that, so I'll make it quite clear. All right, anyone else on the public hearing?
Mayor, it does appear we have one hand raised.
Thank you. Jane Creighton, once you're in the room, the floor will be yours. We will need your camera on. And Jane, when your camera is on, the floor will be yours. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, but is this meeting to discuss 2084, the rezoning of that property, rescheduled for August, or is it actually happening today?
Yeah, the ordinance is on our agenda.
It is.
Tonight.
Okay. All right. So I did submit a little statement, a letter by email, and I did just want to make a quick statement about how I oppose the rezoning. I don't know if this is the appropriate time for that.
It sure is. Yeah, you're welcome to make those comments now. You can also save them for the item.
Make sure she knows what property. I didn't hear that.
You are welcome to comment now if you would like. Yeah, you will have another opportunity at the item itself when it is brought up. And this is, just to be very clear, this is the Boulder Drive rezoning. I just want to be sure.
Yep.
Because, okay, great. Floor is
Yep,
yours.
the Beach Street and Boulder Drive. Yep.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just deeply concerned about the potential negative impacts of this rezoning on our community, mainly our neighborhood here. And I have several concerns, one being environmental concerns, that this is a wildlife habitat area. There's a lot of fauna and flora that, are in that field back there. Antelope use it as a thoroughfare. It's a migration path. Also, I'm really concerned about the safety and traffic that would be increasing on the road adjacent to the high school. There's already a lot of traffic concerns there. Multiple accidents happen, especially after school at their peak times, and I'm concerned about the traffic in that area. I'm also concerned about the property values to the homes adjacent to this area, as that building could potentially impact property values to those homes. I'm also really concerned about water management as we add surfaces that will increase water runoff to that drainage area. That could impact flooding with that little local retention pond back there. So I'm extremely concerned about about that. And then really, when I bought the property, I was under the assumption that the builder had explained that it was open space and it would continue to be open space, which was a really nice reason to buy this property. And we believe that actually, and living here, I live really adjacent to that proposed building site. And I believe that really we should be considering a dedicated pathway and park to assist the youth who are walking to school from this neighborhood there and not building an obstacle that they have to get around. So those are just some of my concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Creighton. I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak this public hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, move to staff for announcements.
Mayor, thank you. There are no announcements tonight.
Thank you. Council members, any disclosures or ex parte communications? I would disclose that one of the property owners called me today to reiterate their support for this proposal, and that was the Gearens, reached out to me today. So I just wanted to notify you about that ex parte communication, and so you know it was largely about the support and then a request that maybe we not consider this on our agenda, which I said no. Any others? Okay.
Sorry.
Please.
Because it was an email that was sent to all council, the Garens also reached out to all of us to share that their thoughts on this development.
Thank you.
Again, just general support.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure I responded to that email as well.
No problem. Thank you all. Any others? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, seconded by Richardson. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Somerville has her hand up
Yeah,
for
we
some reason.
accidentally, when we were making
you.
changes,
Understood.
yeah. Somerville.
Yes.
And I apologize for the confusion there.
No problem.
Okay.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll move on to item 11. Councilor Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that the council approve Resolution 2024-41, awarding $226,730 due to rounding in fiscal year 24-25 community partner funds in accordance with the amounts listed in the resolution, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Gabriel, second by Cumby. City Manager, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, as you know, each year the city provides funding to a host of local agencies from the general purpose penny tax, or the 5th cent. This year you received 28 applications for community partner funding. The total amount of the dollars requested was $545,000. You reviewed those applications back in March and heard from each of the requesting agencies, and per the recommendation made at that time to potentially adjust funding for community partners up by 2.5%. You've cast your votes, and tonight we'll be approving that funding for the 28 agencies that applied. Let me break down for you how those agencies look. You have one that is a civic and quasi-governmental organization, 18 are social service providers in Laramie, and 9 are recreation or cultural services providing organizations. In total, the amount of funding that is being recommended as per your votes is $226,720 to go to those 28 agencies. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer those.
I appreciate that, City Manager. Councilors, do you have any questions? Okay. We'll go to the public on this. If there's any members of the public wishing to speak to this item, you are welcome to. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Any comments from council before the vote? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. Move on to item 12, Vice Mayor Cumby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council approve Resolution 2024-42, approving the sole source purchase from Motorola Solutions for the purchase and installation of NICE radio and telephony recording system in amount not to exceed $250,000 and amend appropriations for the fiscal year 2023 through 2024 biennial budget of the City of Laramie, Wyoming, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Cumby, second by O'Doherty. Chief Brown. Welcome.
Good evening. Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is the project that I had an opportunity to talk about last week regarding our dispatch recording software. So Wyoming is doing an upgrade May 6th through the 10th, which is currently ongoing, and it'll make our current operating system obsolete. This software is the same one that Laramie County is using, and it'll give us the opportunity to use them as a backup dispatch center should we have any issues go down or any major events, such as a football game or any other operational events where we need assistance. And I'll take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Chief. Councilors, any questions? Okay. We'll go to the public on this item. If there's a member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room. Raise your hand if you are on the Zoom call. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Back to the council. Great. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Item 13, Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would move to approve original ordinance number 2084 on third and final reading, rezoning approximately 4.1 acres of Lot 1, Block 1 of the Boulder addition from O District O to Limited Business District B1 in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law and in conformity with the 2013 Turner Track Area Plan, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Shumway, second by Gabriel. Mr. Sheedy, welcome.
Honorable Mayor, Council, this is the third time this has come before you. This is the third and final time this has come before you. This is a zoning amendment for 4.1 acres on the southeast corner of Beach and Boulder Drive. If I can remind you, that is directly across from the high school. This property is currently zoned O District, which is a holding district, not a true zoning district. There are some things that can happen there, but it is fairly limited. And the request is to change the zoning for this property to B1 Limited Business District, which is the primary zoning district on the adjacent properties next to this parcel. This is a partial rezoning. The original proposal that went before Planning Commission was a full rezoning of this property. However, due to public comment and concerns from Planning Commission, the decision was made to recommend a partial rezoning instead for the property, the developable portion of this property. The change to B1 zoning district was requested originally in conjunction with a unattainable housing, workforce housing unit on this property, but has since been removed. The city decided to move forward with that because that is the desired zoning within the Turner Tract Area Plan that has been out since 2013. To address some of the concerns that we heard here earlier tonight. Certain things that were requested will still be required during a site plan process, one of which is full detention up to a 100-year storm event on site. Even though there is a detention pond directly adjacent to it, there is no plans by the Public Works staff to deposit all of the storm runoff onto within that site, and any site plan that comes in will be held to the same standards that any other development would. Additionally, the request for any multi-use trails is within the Parks and Rec master plan, so it will connect the neighborhood directly adjacent to the high school to Boulder Drive, and will be developed in conjunction with any development that occurs there. That will be the developer's responsibility. This motion went before Planning Commission on March 25th, and there was 6 ayes for this, 0 nays, and 1 vacant position within this. And we have included all the public comments that we received in the packet for your review, but I'm here for any questions or follow-up on this motion.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Richardson, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. Can you, if I remember correctly, part of the confusion with this being zoned O is that folks did think that meant open. Is that correct?
That's correct. O means an open zoning ready for any time where it is suitable for rezoning. Now, this is a somewhat unique situation because this is primarily a detention pond on this property. However, there is developable portions of land on it. I would like to remind you all that this is city property, and any stipulations that City Council may have for the sale of this property will go into such an agreement.
Great. Thank you. And I should have clarified open space, that the O had people thinking this was open space rather than open zone.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That was the assumption.
Any other questions, councilors? Okay. We'll go to the public on this. If there's any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, now's your chance. Go ahead and come forward. If you're in the room, raise your hand if you're on the Zoom call. Ms. Creighton, we'll let you back in the room. You'll have 3 more minutes, please. Same rules. You'll just need your camera on, and we'll start your time when you start talking. Welcome back.
Thank you. So I'd just like to actually use a little bit of this time to ask some questions for clarity about the property and about the zoning and about the original intentions, because there did seem to be some intentions for trails around this neighborhood that have never fully come to fruition. And I'm wondering, what was that original intention? And I didn't see anything about that in the packet.
Thank you, Ms. Creighton. Is that your only question?
It is.
And it will be a little bit disappointing, but the council doesn't really take questions in this format. It's not a question and answer. I will allow staff to address that if they have a response, though. Thank you. And we do have a staff member hopping up, so it looks like you'll get an answer, and I appreciate the clumsiness of that.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
Honorable Mayor, through you. To address that question, the plans are still there, they're still in place, and they will be upheld when that property is developed. However, there's no specific plans to do that. When we do make these plans, there's an ideal timeline, and then there's an actual timeline where we can find either funding for that or the property is developed so that will require those improvements. At this time, since this property is still, there's no plans for it being developed, this is only a rezoning, we still don't have a timeline on the completion of that trail network.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak to this item? Back to the council for any comments before we move to the vote. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Newman.
No.
Shumway.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
No.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Somerville.
No.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 6 yeses and 3 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved on third reading. Move on to item 14. Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Resolution 2024-40, accepting and adopting the Ranch Advisory Commission and Monolith Ranch Lease Working Group's recommendation to not proceed with leasing the Monolith Ranch for 3 years and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, seconded by O'Doherty. Mr. Smith, welcome.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Finally, the topic we're all here for, right? I will keep this brief. The title of the resolution is pretty self-explanatory. The overall idea here is that we just need more information to be able to move into a lease, or to rewrite a lease, or to extend the one we currently have. So taking that 3 years to do some research, some analysis on the current conditions of the ranch property, and rangeland health, looking at our water rights, and just taking some time to make sure that the decisions we make going forward don't negatively impact the investment that the city has made. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Councilors, any questions? The new lease, I imagine, encompasses the newly purchased ranch as well, or conceivably it would be both properties together?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that would be one of the things that we look at, whether we lease both ranches and under one contract, or if it makes more sense to break them up. So,
thank you. Okay, great. Councilor Shumway, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. My question is this: are we going to be able to demonstrate beneficial use for all of the both ranches, so that we don't lose any of our potential water in the future?
Mr. Mayor, through you. Yes, consumptive use is tied to the actual irrigating of the ground, not the production from the hay or from cattle grazing. So the city, as far back as I can find, has always been in charge of the irrigation and always applied that water. So nothing there would change. The only thing that really changes without a lease is cattle grazing. That's really the only difference. So all the water rights would stay beneficially used. The monolith would then be managed for the next 3 years the same way that the Hart Ranch is currently, where we go out for a hay contract on an annual basis.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions? Councilor Richardson, Councilor Gabriel.
Great, thank you. I believe in the documents it noted that kind of some of the work that is currently being done by the managers out there would go to city staff. What city staff will be taking that on, and what does that look like time-wise for folks? Do we have a good plan in place for that?
So they're actually, without cattle, Mr. Mayor, apologies, through you. So without cattle, the same work that city staff does now, like I had mentioned with the irrigation, there's not much that changes. There is the presence on the ranch, and that is something we're working through with ideas of gates and then staggering some of the seasonals right through there, because sometimes of the year it's really difficult to get in there. So we have that summer season to where you have an issue. So that's more the work that is being taken.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gabriel?
Yeah, I was just curious about the flexibility on this. If something should come about and you see, well, maybe we can go a little bit earlier, you would have to come back before council then to change that?
Mr. Mayor, through you, is I would, if in just a hypothetical, 2 years from now, we find out for fire mitigation that we do need to start grazing it, right? We need to get it on there. I would work with the city manager, and I would assume that we would bring something forward to the council, because any contract like that, I assume, would be brought through.
Thank you.
Good question, councilors. All right, any other questions? Great. We will go to the public on this item now. Any member of the public wishing to speak this item, go ahead and come forward if you're in the room, or raise your hand if you're on our Zoom call. Same rules apply. You'll have 3 minutes. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Back to the council before the vote. I just wanted to say, oh, please go ahead, Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As council knows, I've been on the ranch committee for, on and off, for a number of years. Also served on the working group that took a real hard look at this, and there was unanimous findings to let go of this lease for about 3 years, and then reconsider at that time. There are a lot of things we don't know because we've had it leased for a very, very long time, and this will give us a real opportunity to test the water, test the soil, and really, do our due diligence and potentially use more water, because once those cows are removed, we can get out there and we can actually work that as a hay operation a whole lot better. So that doesn't say that they won't need to come back, but for the interim, I think it's a good plan, and it's really only 3 years. And as I've said before, 3 years in ranching is really like 9 months, because it's 3 months of summer, so it's really not that long. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce, and my comment is just to thank you for your efforts in both the Ranch Committee and in particular this working group. We know it was, the council was all really happy to have just one council member appointed when the request was for 2, and so nobody else stepped up to it, and so I just wanted to thank you for leading us through that. All right. City Clerk, please call the roll on this item.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We'll move on to item 15. Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor, and it's the item that we've all been waiting for. So I move to seek an agreement to rescind the Landmark Square parking lot agreement and its amendments.
Is there a second to bring it on the floor?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Somerville. City Manager, I'm going to recognize you first, and then I have a few things just for housekeeping for the public on this one.
Sure.
Please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to kind of open up the conversation tonight with some information. Oh, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it.
You're better than the IT guys. Like, they were going to come in here, and you saved them a trip. I
Takes a
wanted
village.
to start out this evening by just sharing some information with the council and with members of the public who may be interested in this item and here with us this evening. And if the clerk would start the presentation, I think it'd be easier for folks to look on, particularly with the Zoom participants. First thing I wanted to talk about is how did we sort of get here tonight? Because I've been reading a lot of public comments and also seen a lot of social media posts talking about a perceived speed, if you will, for this project that is unusual. So I wanted to share these key dates with folks just to assure everybody that this is not an unusually fast process. And with saying that, I want to say I'm not advocating for fastness either, so let me get through these 5 slides before people start throwing things at me.
Give me one moment, please.
Yes.
Councilor
Sorry,
Richardson.
can you zoom in on that a little bit
Yes.
so folks can see it a little bit easier?
And that-
Sorry.
if anybody's interested, that last TV in the corner can be angled back so folks in the, sorry, you folks in the back, I'm not that far back, but this one so you have a chance to read one too. It can just be pulled on to move if you want.
Louder. I don't know about how they turn the volume.
We got it.
But
We got it.
I'll talk louder if that is helpful.
You're fine. Please, City Manager, go ahead.
Thank you. So as we look at the timeline for the project, I just pulled this out of our materials that we have here at the city and created this today. December 22nd, the Community and Economic Development Department received and followed up on an inquiry from a developer who was inquiring about possible sites that might be of sufficient size in this community for a multifamily housing development. If members of the public are not aware of that, certainly the council are. Inquiries like that come to city staff probably weekly, from developers about all kinds of projects. But they will start with a call to City Hall to say, hey, are there spaces available in town that you are well aware of, as part of their due diligence? They'll also reach out to local realtors and other professionals. So then on March 25th, the developer in question responded back saying that he wanted to inquire specifically about the First Street parking lot. 3 days later, the developer requested a feasibility meeting about infrastructure and other downtown requirements for that site. April 4th, the Main Street Alliance was made aware of the potential development, not through some formal notice, but through an informal meeting where members of planning staff were there, and the conversation was had, oh, hey, there's an interesting project that and developer that might be interested in downtown. 4 days after that, that pre-application feasibility meeting was held, and then on April 10th, the developer informed city staff of their intent to focus on First Street lot and to seek lease termination in front of this council. 2 days later, the public notice was published of the intent to schedule a meeting about the project. On April 16th, staff were here in front of the city council asking you to establish a meeting, a special work session on a Wednesday night, which is not your customary evening to meet, but that was the first available opportunity the following week on April 24th. And you'll recall, I also at that public meeting on April 16th told you that this project was notable and that information would be forthcoming in your packet 2 days later to make you and the council, or excuse me, and the community aware of this potential project. The reason staff asked for that work session is not because it was required, but because the scale of this project and the location of it, we were sensitive to the fact that this would garner a lot of community interest. So we wanted to have a work session, not required, but just doing our due diligence for the community to put this issue out in the community and start that public dialogue. You had your special work session on April 24th, and here we are on May 7th with the actionable item that's in front of you, which is the request from the developer to either to release the lease or to continue the lease that the city holds for public parking on the downtown parking lot. If there are any questions, I'm going to sort of change subjects a little bit.
Councilors, any questions on this part? Okay. Go ahead.
So that's how we got here in terms of process. That is best practice in terms of public administration theory. And the public were made aware of this literally almost as soon as staff were made aware of it, and so was the council. Next slide, please. So if we look to the issue of housing, here's some information the council has seen recently. Why did the staff entertain this request from a developer? Well, because we have tomes of data showing us that housing is a key need in this community, and we also have tomes of data showing us that the downtown is a potential viable location for housing development. From the 2023 Laramie Community Survey conducted twice during 2023 in the spring and fall, residents told us what do they want changed about Laramie, and housing, as you can see, was probably the second most commented item, and you can see actual excerpts from statements made by Laramie residents about why more housing is important. Next slide. From our 2024 budget priority survey conducted in January, February, again, you will see a question was asked of our residents. Is there another city service or program that wasn't listed previously in the survey that is important to you? And if so, please describe it. Overwhelmingly, our residents said housing was their number one issue. Why does this matter, and what do our studies tell us? Next slide, please. Well, we have an exodus of talent and innovation in Laramie. Jobs, which are actually people, need a place to go home to at night, and right now our Laramie workers are going elsewhere. Our resident survey research also tells us when people were asked if they would not be living in Laramie in 5 years, you'll see 53% of people with an associate degree said they would not be living here in 5 years. Those with a bachelor's degree, 26% would not be living here in 5 years. With a master's degree, 17.6%, with a doctorate, 18%, and those with children under 18 in their household, 20% of them said they will not be living in Laramie in 5 years. Why is this? Our demand for housing exceeds our supply. It probably has for decades, but our studies show that since 2015, demand has fully exceeded supply. 602 units of housing have been constructed in Laramie between 2015 and 2023, and our data showed us in 2015 that we actually would have needed 1,500 units of housing by now, of a variety of types, including owner-occupied units and 898 rental units of all types for seniors, for families, for students, and for people of all income levels and education levels. Next slide. So from our Thrive Laramie Economic Development Study and plan from 2020, what we found when we talked to Laramie residents was demand and supply are out of whack. So we have a high number of homes that cost more than income ratios in this community. That causes a loss of workers, young professionals, and families. We have missing middle housing, nowhere for workers to live. Our employers, top employers in this community, have told us for 10 years that housing is limiting their ability to recruit and retain talent. And the housing shortage is impeding economic vitality, and a rising tide floats all boats, but a rising tide also sinks all boats. So the lack of economic vitality is creating a negative effect for all of residents and for all businesses in Laramie. From our housing study, you can see that multifamily is a desired housing product. As we learned from talking to our community, not just single family, duplexes, triplex, fourplex, multifamily, small and large, were desired and needed at high numbers. And next slide. I've read, as you have, council, dozens and dozens of comments. I've been a little dismayed, frankly, to see many of them talk about this developer being from out of town. And I understand that we like to make sure our local developers have a lot of business, but one thing we know from our studies is that probably the reason downtown infill development hasn't happened in Laramie is it's really kind of a specialized skill set, and we don't have that skill set of developers really that routinely work in these complex downtown redevelopment spaces. Thrive Laramie recognized that and in fact suggested that this community work with outside developers who have proven track records of success in this type of development. So April 10th, we found out the developer wanted to focus on First Street. It's May 7th. It's been barely 30 days. As I said at the beginning, I'm not advocating for rushing this. This is a big, big decision for our community. So what is next? What I would like to suggest to you tonight is that we slow this down and we take some time. I did have a chance, as have other members of the staff, to speak with the developer. I spoke with him literally this morning. I think that the Stencil Group is interested in working in Laramie, and in my time with this community, in a professional position, I don't know that we've ever seen a developer of this caliber be willing to come and talk to us and make an investment of this magnitude into our community. So what I would suggest, what should be next, is that we take some time, we understand better what this project detail looks like, because the truth is what we have in front of us tonight is barely conceptual. Even the developer doesn't have all of the detail yet, and we will need that in order to answer the questions that the community's brought before us. In speaking with the developer today, I did get a sense that the developer was willing to talk to us further, and when I looked at the public comments that we have received, it seemed that concerns fell largely in, I would say, 4 or 5 categories. Those categories were the height of the building. They were, will the developer be willing to follow the downtown development guidelines, which are not codified or required, but are strong guidelines to preserve the historic character of downtown. There were concerns about construction, and if this project ever happened, how would the construction alone impact our downtown business community? I mentioned that. We also talked, and there was willingness, it seemed, to have further conversation around that. And And then, of course, the P word, parking. Lots of comments about the loss of parking. In speaking with the developers, indicated some willingness to entertain parking solutions that would maybe add more parking into the downtown in other locations. We did develop for the public some answers to frequently asked questions that we've seen throughout the last week or so. I'll leave those with the clerk. What I will tell you is that city staff have right now a concept in hand that, completely unrelated to this development, would add potentially 100-ish parking spaces to the downtown along Front Street from Grand Avenue to Park Avenue. That's already in progress, being discussed at a staff level. There are other solutions as well, and the developer seems willing to talk about how they might be a partner to the community in that. So anyway, I leave you with that, the suggestion that we slow this down and talk about it a little bit more. Certainly it's council's will to do what you will. And I do know Nathan Stencil with the Stencil Group, the developer, I think is planning or was planning to be on the call and may want to address you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. Mr. Stencil, did you have any additional comments?
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. No, I just wanted to kind of reiterate everything that was just said. We had a great conversation with staff today. Our goal is to never come into a community and just push a deal forward. The first phase of doing this was really to understand if we could even have an opportunity to terminate this lease agreement so we would have the ability to confidently move forward and start spending money and time to further develop the plan, look into parking solutions, all the above. We still want to do that, and our goal to kind of by continuing this to a future meeting is to, just as said, slow the process down. We still fully intend on pursuing this project. It will be a great project. It's the right project for Laramie. We've been through this situation before in other communities, and change is tough. And we understand there are issues that need to be addressed. But I'm confident in knowing that when this is done and years from now, when you sit up on top of the bridge, and you look back at the city, that this project will now be a key component of the fabric of downtown, and one that everybody enjoys and appreciates and makes downtown a better place. But we also want to make sure that we can do our best to address the parking situation, the design of the development. Like I said, we haven't even attempted to do anything with the exterior of the building. So I'd encourage people not to make assumptions. We are going to do this through a transparent process. We will be coming forward with public input meetings so that people can review some designs and give us some feedback. But we're hoping that we can put our best foot forward with the community to come up with solutions that best address, within reason, best address all of the concerns that people have today. I know we won't have something that's, leaves it a parking lot today. I guess that would be, what some people would like, but, we're confident that we can help facilitate a process that hopefully addresses and softens the blow on some of the concerns. We're committed to doing that, and we will look forward to being in front of you and sharing with you what we learn.
Thank you, Mr. Stencil.
Thank you.
Thank you. In conclusion, Council, I just wanted to point out the current parking lot does have 76 spots available for public parking. It should be noted, however, that under the lease agreement, the owner does have the latitude to reduce that number for reserved paid public parking down to a number of 41 at any time. So while there are 76 now, 41 is really, to be fair, the maximum that we should rely on throughout the term of this lease. We've been fortunate that they've been more gracious with their space than they had to be for 20-plus years. I also wanted to touch on one other item here. Apologize while I gather my thoughts here. I did read a couple of things that I wanted to just address as really not factual or relevant, in, as far as I know, to this conversation. I did see some discussion in the public arena about this potential development being tied to a sanctuary city initiative. I want to assure the public that the developer has never discussed at any time anything about this project in any way remotely related to sanctuary cities. And Council, as you know, you've never, ever, ever had that conversation related to this development or any other thing in this city, in these chambers. Lastly, it's been asked whether city staff, as they receive and fielded this call, if they shared with the developer other locations besides our coveted parking lot, right, which we know is coveted because we've received dozens of messages about it. And boy, I park there all the time, I get it. What I want to assure you and the public is there were other locations in the downtown that were discussed and the developer pointed to them. What we understand, however, is this is the only location in the downtown that meets their location and, more importantly, their space requirement, which is a minimum of a half acre, as I'm told by our planning staff. We've also been asked if other locations around town, outside of the downtown, were discussed with the developer. And as is our practice whenever we get these inquiries, we identify locations all throughout the community that we think may be potentially viable for any developer's prospective work that they want to do or project, whether it's a fried chicken place or a multifamily apartment complex. So many other locations in the community were shared. We understand this developer is specialized, as I said, in downtown redevelopment, and so for that reason, as I understand it at this time, the interest of the developer continues to be in the downtown area. Assistant City Manager Fieser could discuss with you, if you'd like more detail, the potential plans for expanding parking downtown that, as I said, are not necessarily related to this project, more tangential and already in motion, but he's here if you do have questions about that.
Thank you, City Manager. So, Council, in navigating this, you can see the in your packet, you'll note there's a postponement recommendation from staff, which I think is largely to the point of the City Manager. And you heard it echoed a little bit by Mr. Stencil as well. But before we head down a path, I think it might be beneficial for the public to sort of know where we're all at point in time with a straw poll. And so I think just to put folks' minds at ease, I have spoken to each of you, some of you several times over the last couple weeks. And I get a sense that the public might have their minds put at ease by knowing that I have not heard a single person interested in signing this agreement today. But I did want to go around between the two options, and as far as I see them, Council, you can throw out another one when I get to you, but rejecting outright would be one option, and that would be rejecting the termination of the lease. The second would be a postponement. And so I'm going to go around to each of you and give you a chance to say where you're at before we move to the public. And of course, I would let the public know as well, as a caveat, people's vote could theoretically change. And so I'm going to go ahead and just begin there. And Mr. Stencil, I saw you had your hand up, and I'm curious if you need to add something before I move to a straw poll.
If you don't mind, sorry about that. No, I guess I was under the assumption that we were just postponing this tonight. I guess it wasn't explained to me that there'd be options for that it would just be voted down, I guess. So I would hate to, prolong a process when we were under the understanding that we had already agreed to postpone this to a further date, was, I guess, what was presented to us and what we approved, I guess, so.
Yeah, Mr. Stencil, the city council will make the choice, though. So.
Oh, okay, sorry.
What you heard, just as a note, and I don't mean to undermine any discussion with staff. Our staff has, I think, a lot of credibility and works well with the council, but the council obviously has the latitude to do with this as we see fit. So as far as I mean, the council could theoretically sign the lease agreement tonight, right? And or termination of the lease agreement, right? So everything I think is on the table. But city manager, I would just go to you as well.
I think it's important, as I hear the cat calls starting in the back of the room, to clarify what staff recommended is what we told the developer, and that is what is published in your packet.
Correct.
And the recommendation of planning staff was to postpone, just as I have said. And then that is what's published for the public, and that then is what is conveyed to the developer as staff's recommendation. Mayor, you are correct. You, council, will do what you will with that.
Thank you, city manager. And I hope it was not interpreted in any way as me demeaning your office, because we have a great deal of respect for what you do.
Not yours.
And I apologize. I just wasn't aware of how the process works.
Yeah.
There, so.
Understood, Mr. Stencil. It's no problem at all.
Thank you.
And, you know, I don't have a clue where this is headed, to be honest, but I do want to have a sense of where the council's at before we begin taking public comment. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. I think that's the fair thing to do.
Mayor, I just wanted to say, you keep saying vote, and I wanted to make sure you guys understand that this isn't an official vote.
Councilor Newman, thank you for that. I think that is an important caveat for the public. I'm asking council to straw poll this in this moment in time where they're at. This is not our vote. Our vote will happen at the end. I just want you all to kind of know where we're at. So, please.
Point of order. I feel like our city attorney is.
I have discussed with the city attorney. Okay.
So, and you might want to explain that this is highly unusual to do this.
Yeah, we don't do this. We do this because we heard from you all so much, because our inboxes are dead. And because I think there is, you know, I guess I tell you this because I think that there is a lot of consideration. You all have spent a lot of time to be here. It's been an hour already. You probably don't want to spend another 5 hours with the council, right? So if you have a sense of where we're headed, that may make you feel a little more open to brevity in your public comment. And, you know, you'll get your time to do with it as you please, but a member of the public told me we already showed up and told you what we thought. We shouldn't have to do it again. And that stuck with me. So I'm doing a straw poll because of that. So I'm going to begin. I think postponement is a fine option at this point. I don't know that I come down as a yes on this at the end, but for now, I think it's hard to make a decision without a real proposal on the table. And that's been frustrating me the whole time. But at this point, I am favorable to postponement. And council members, you're not limited to an absolute no or a postponement, but I am just curious. Those are the two I have built up in my mind. So if you have others, please go ahead. Councilor Gabriel, I'm going to start with you. We're going to work
Okay, I'm a definite no on this. We've heard from the public. There's no reason to prolong this any longer. I would encourage the Stencil Group to look at a different location. I think the public has spoken. Here's a poll this afternoon, mid-afternoon from Laramie Live, just under 2,000 votes, 1949. And 1,548 against, 245 in favor. I mean, that says a lot. And we've heard from the public. You know, I would be run out of town, I think, or I'd have to go hide if I voted in favor of this, maybe both. And so I'm a definite no, no postponement. This is the wrong place at the wrong time. The Stencil Group, I think, would be encouraged to look elsewhere for housing in Laramie, and we would encourage him to do so.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Richardson, please.
Thank you. Initially, I've gone back and forth a lot on this, and we've had so many emails, and I really appreciate all of you who have taken the time to email and call and meet with me to share your thoughts and concerns and your support. There are some people who have also showed support, just haven't heard from a lot of them. But as one email recognized today, that again, opening up the time so that more community members, I think we have a lot of business folks downtown, which is great because it's closest to all of you. But having more community members who are really concerned about housing and are struggling to find housing have a voice would be important too. This morning I was thinking, you know, we don't need to terminate this lease, let's just move forward. And I'm giving a long rambling diatribe here, sorry. And then this afternoon I started thinking that, you know, this deserves a conversation, even if it's the same things that we've had, right, to lay this out and talk about these things more fully. And we may come to the very same situation, or as a community, we may be able to look at this and decide on different places downtown and and lay out these things, like where is the best place for parking? What does it mean? What does tax increment financing mean? And open these conversations up. I think about our boards and commissions who could help with these communications and help us explore all of this, even if we don't do anything with this space. And so I think it's worth having some conversations. And so I am in favor of postponing so that we can all talk some more, even if we land in a place that's, you know, right where we are. Even if people, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So I'm in favor of postponing.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Newman, please.
I've read 400 comments at least on Facebook, received many phone calls.
Please turn your microphone on.
Oh, I turned it off, my bad. So I've read 400 plus comments on Facebook, numerous phone calls. My inbox has been on fire since this has surfaced. I will be a no vote on this.
Thank you, Councilor. Vice Mayor.
My goodness. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to provide input. I have been quite impressed with the thoughtfulness of the letters that have been written. There was no form letter here, send this to your counselor. Every single letter was written personally, and people put a lot of time into explaining their reasons for opposing or agreeing with, and also made multiple recommendations, suggestions. I just found the input very intense, but very helpful. I also have gone back and forth, and my two stances have been between postponement and no. And what I took time to read through all the letters and to write a response, not to each letter, but a general response that stated my position. And in that, I state, I'll just read my, in summary, I believe we need to postpone any action on the Landmark Square lease option and to implement a process that facilitates community input and vision for this central space that exists in the heart of our historic downtown. And that is what I put out to the public, and that is what I believed until about an hour ago. And I then began to consider just a flat no. So I think since this first started, I've been a proponent of slow it down, wait a minute, let's see what's going on. What is our vision? What do we want? I don't feel that I have enough information to make the yes or no. And so that's where I'm at right now. Thank you. Sorry if that was easy.
And for clarity, does that leave you at a no or a postponement, Vice Mayor? Sorry.
It leaves me leaning toward a postponement. I am sorry, and I can't go further than that because we haven't heard from people, but I'm leaning toward and have advocated for postponement so that we can really look at this. So
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and sorry to put you on the spot there.
That's okay.
I'm just trying to decide how to navigate running this meeting in the middle of it.
I know.
And just so it's cohesive, I'm for postponement, but to Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I am in favor of a postponement.
Councilor Schummer.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also am in favor of postponement. I believe that working together, we can find a solution not only to our housing infill downtown, but also adequate parking. And if we don't, then that's a different situation. I will say this. We've received, as you know, a flood of questions that have come from this community. I also spoke with Mayor Patrick Collins in Cheyenne. They have two stencil projects going on there that they are thrilled with. They say the quality is excellent. The project has been very good for their community, and should we reach the point where the parking concern is solved and the appearance of the building is something that blends well, he said, you will have a great project. So I want to see that we can reach the point where all of those concerns are at least alleviated to the point where we have something that we can solve two problems, the parking problem and the housing problem. So right now, I want to give us some time with a postponement to see what we come up with solutions, and if we do, then hopefully we can move forward with this project.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor O'Doherty, please.
I would oppose it just flat out. I think that we have an asset downtown. The city has an asset of that lease, and I don't want to give that up. I want to give time if the Downtown Development Authority or somebody wants to build a parking lot there, or like a tasteful two-story parking lot or something. I want to keep that option open, and so I feel like rather than string along these developers, I'd rather just, they'd have to wait until the lease is up. And I'm sorry to do that to private property owners, because people, it's their property, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Councilor Somerville, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very brief. This is not the first time this community has gone through a controversial project. The one that really sticks in my mind is Prexy's Pasture, which is now a treasured and coveted piece of our community, both for the university and for the community members. And I think we would not be doing our due diligence as a council if we didn't give it a chance to slow down and investigate all of the options and see where we might be able to find some agreement, whether it's really a good fit or not. So I would really encourage us to move for a postponement tonight and to continue the work and see where we end up.
Thank you, Councilor Somerville. So with that in mind, folks, and I know that we had one fairly soft on postponement, but that leaves us at a 6-3 to postponement. So I'm going to move to Councilor Richardson for a motion for postponement. City Clerk, please go ahead.
Mayor, just as a reminder, a postponement motion is a secondary motion, so we do need a formal main motion before we can postpone.
Did we not have a formal main motion to bring this on the floor for approval? City Clerk, I believe we did.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
You're fine.
Yes.
And just for your notes, Pierce and Somerville are
Thank you.
The first and the second. But thank you, because I have been a little off the rails this evening on some of the parliamentary procedure. So, Councilor Richardson, please.
Thank you. I move for an indefinite postponement.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, seconded by Somerville. And with that, yeah, I'll turn. I'm not going to. The council had a chance. We all spoke, so I'm going to turn this to the public. But I hope that in some sense you feel as if the process worked, right? Like a bunch of people showed up, the council heard what they said, and here we are at a far different place than I think a lot of people probably assumed that this conversation was going when they were driving down here today. Based on the emails I'm getting and the sort of Facebook avalanches. And so I am going to turn this over to the public, but I would note, just for practical consideration, the indefinite postponement does not set a time for this item to come back to the council. Obviously, it's in the name. The council will bring this back when when an actual proposal has come around. And I think also we would like the stencil group to look at other options. I mean, I don't know that those 6 votes are a yes on the end product in that location anyway. So I would encourage that conversation. But as you come forward, I would love to be hard and fast on this rule, but I know you all took time to prepare your comments. If you can speak to the postponement, please do. Like, keep your comments to postponement. If you stray, I'm probably not going to call you out for it too much, but please try to be brief. There's a lot of folks that want to comment, and as you can see, it's almost 8. So, but we will get through this together. But I know y'all don't want to spend your whole evening with us. So I have a list of folks I'm going to start with, and then I'll hop to the city clerk, who also has a list. After that, we're going to go to just free range public comment. You stand up first, you get to come up. So Billy Eckert is first. You can go ahead and come forward. And again, please stick to the postponement. That is the motion on the floor, if you can. Welcome.
Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you. Billy Eckhart, downtown business building owner and business owner. I already had prepared this. I do just want to caveat by saying I appreciate you guys slowing this down, taking this into consideration, considering some other things that were brought last week, and I think we have a lot. I'm really glad too that you're allowing public comment this week, even after the postponement has been voted on, because I think we all have a lot of good points, and we still want you guys to think about it, because it sounds like this will come up. So I would like to start by saying that personal property rights are important. Nobody wants the government telling them what they can and can't do with their property. However, in this case, Ryan Bolton purchased the property along with the Landmark Square buildings with this lease in place. He was aware that the land was locked into a lease with the city until 2024. As a reminder, the city is not defined as the current 9 city council members personally. The city is we the people. The 9 city council members must represent we the people. As such, when the elected officials do not vote in alignment with the majority of the people have the right to recall those who do not represent. The overwhelming majority of the public who this parking agreement benefits is against terminating this lease. According to the Laramie Live, you guys have updated that. My numbers are inaccurate. Councilman Gabriel had those. Anyways, we've made our point. More than 80% or around 80% oppose this. Again, the 2 owners of the parking lot purchased the real estate pursuant to the parking agreement. City Council has stated they should abandon the parking agreement in favor of the landowner's private property rights. Their position negates the public's property interest set forth in the agreement, which financially only benefits the landowner to the detriment of their constituents. Note, the property owner can sell their property to anyone, but the lease stays in place. So we're not telling them that they can't sell their property. Furthermore, this lease was with the city's own requirement of the development of the Landmark Square buildings to meet the city's own code parking requirements. So proper procedure says that if there's an ordinance to create the parking requirements by the city according to the code, then it is required by the city's ordinance to have 3 readings by the city council. Bypassing the city's own requirements for ordinances creates a precedence of process from here forth, both for the city and for the public. If we can just turn on and off the rules as we choose, then where is your basis for enforcement? Other points of clarification I would like to make in reference to comments made by the councilman. With respect, Councilman Odori's comment about the city's obligation to downtown businesses to provide parking. To be clear, it is the city's obligation to provide parking for downtown businesses. To Councilman Nguyen's comment about Kansas, to which I say you're not in Kansas anymore. To Councilman Richardson's comment, the apartment is prettier than a parking lot full of cars. You have never owned a business downtown. A parking lot full of cars is a beautiful sight and indicative of the customers in your business. You're missing the point of downtown success. We don't clog all the open spaces with buildings without considering the optimum ratio of parking spaces to businesses for their success. To Honorable Mayor Harrington's comment, you will get called out, to which I say your condescending comments to the constituents does not get you elected to county commissioner. You too will be called out. If you vote to terminate the agreement, you will be selling out the very town you're entrusted to protect and grow. Is this legacy you want to live?
Because of the turn you're taking, your time is expired.
I understand that. In closing, the people require the council members do not terminate this lease. Remember, giving up this lease does not automatically give Bolton the right to build the proposed property. An environmental impact study hasn't even been done. But when the lease is gone, it's gone. Honor the downtown community spirit by keeping this lease in place. Again, the community needs to retain the ownership of this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time. Folks, if we're going down that path, we're going to limit public comment. All right. No. Guys, I'm sure you're all adults and cannot clap every time, please. Next up, I have Ryan Hershey.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Ryan Hershey. I'm a downtown business owner, Laramie Ward 1 resident, and homeowner. I'm here to address the council regarding the agenda topic relating to the vote to relinquish the First Street parking lot 20 years premature. The first two topics on the subject I'd like to speak about tonight are accessibility for everyone to be able to visit, shop, and enjoy our downtown. At the previous city council meeting on this topic, several city council members expressed that the downtown did not have a parking problem, but instead a walking problem. In light of those comments, let me read you the city council's own mission statement for 2024. 2024 goals. Goal number 1, infrastructure planning and investment. Milestone A, maximize safe access for persons of all abilities and ages to public amenities, facilities, and rights of way. Engage Laramie Advisory Commission on Disabilities in these efforts and complete the application for grant funding to expedite needed improvements in high priority areas. That was the first thing listed on the 2024 goals of the city council. You guys should be aware of those, I assume. You made them. In the core downtown area between 1st and 3rd Street in Ivinson and Garfield, there are currently 9 handicap parking spaces, 4 of which are located in the First Street parking lot that we're concerned about. How does removing 44% of the ADA parking in that core downtown area meet goal number 1 of the city's 2024 goals? The second thing I would like to mention is how the proposed parking project, or the proposed project is the reason for considering relinquishing the parking lot lease does not meet the goals of the 2020 Laramie housing strategy. The city manager neglected to mention, and I asked the city clerk to bring this forward to you guys, you should have it all today, the desired housing product. That's located on page 12 of the Laramie housing strategy. On that, it gives a graph down here, and it shows that large apartment buildings, 12 units and more, are the lowest priority for desired housing product. That study involved 150 votes. Of those 150 votes, only 5 were in favor of large apartment buildings, 12 plus units. That's just 3%. And considering the Laramie Live polls, we're seeing similar sort of numbers there. Considering that the city has already paid for and conducted a study on this very topic, which determined that only a tiny fraction of Laramie wants such a structure, why is the council even considering relinquishing the lease 20 years early? Relinquishing the lease without having alternative parking already established is premature and ill-advised.
Please wrap up.
Let's not get rid of downtown's most used off-street parking. Doing so will only compound the on-street parking problem that exists and make it harder for people with mobility issues to access downtown.
Thank you, Mr. Hershey. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. Next up is Jamie Egoff. We have you on Zoom. Ms. Egoff, when you are in the Zoom room, you'll see an invitation pop up. When you're in, just turn your camera on. You'll have 3 minutes. And while we wait for that, for the public, when I mentioned limiting comment, I was not saying you wouldn't speak. I was just saying the council will consider you speaking towards postponement. Ms. Egoff.
Hello.
Ms. Egoff, can you turn your camera on, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoops. Okay. I'm Jamie. Oh, goodness.
We won't start until we get, there we go. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for allowing us to speak. It's a real privilege. I'm going to speak from the aspect of historic preservation. When I first came to Laramie in 1979, there was 1 apartment and 1 house to rent and no houses to buy. Oh, I ended up buying an old mountain lodge that was on the Forest Service schedule to be burned. And we completely remodeled that. It took 8 years. It's on the historic register. And so the second project I was involved in was the Cooper Mansion on 15th and Grand. The university had it scheduled to be demolished so that a parking lot could be made, ironically. And so we joined together in a group called Friends of the Cooper Mansion, and we spent 8 years waiting for the opportunity to convince the university, which we finally did. The third project is 2 cottages on Bath Row, which we created. We created a historic row. And so I've been involved in historic preservation, and I believe that's the aspect we should take, the vision we should have for downtown Laramie. I think that any kind of housing, multi-purpose housing, should be considered in some other location because we need to preserve the integrity of our downtown. You can look at Cheyenne. Cheyenne raised all of their cattle baron mansions and built modern buildings, and you can see what happened there. So that's my my view. My vision is to take it to a historic preservation place. Thank you very much for allowing us to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Egoff. Next up, Kaylee Myers. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. First, I want to say I have hope tonight because I feel like you guys are listening and taking us into consideration. So hope is everything. So thank you for listening. My name is Kaylee Myers, and I own Art and Soul Pottery downtown. It's 107 Grand, so right across the street from Coal Creek Coffee. I've been there 8 years, and we do own the building. And I also want to say that I love our downtown. I think it's beautiful, it's vibrant, it's thriving, and it's unique. And I think it should be protected, and the historical aspect is really important, and so I really appreciate the last person that spoke. I'm all for progress and growth and also changing with the times and evolving with the times. But I do believe with my whole heart that this apartment complex will be devastating for downtown Laramie. As stated time and time again, parking is a huge issue already. I'll just speak from my little corner of the world in downtown, but I'm down there every single day, and I unload carfuls of pottery every single week, and I drive around and drive around and drive around till I find a spot where I can unload that pottery. So it's already a problem. Also, my sister, who has cerebral palsy, lives with me, and she comes to work with me often. And there's one handicap spot, which is by Mountain Valley, and if that's taken, we drive around and around and around until we can find a spot. So it's already a huge concern, and I just can't fathom what it would be like compounded with an apartment complex down there. Sorry, I had to make notes so I wouldn't be all over the place.
You're just
I do believe that the current owners of the lot should be able to do what they wish with that property. But I hope that they will be considerate and compassionate towards the community and build something that will enhance downtown without eliminating all of the parking and adding additional stress to what we already have. So I think there's a lot of options downtown as far as retail or restaurants without eliminating that whole parking lot that would enhance what we already have. And I know there's a large sum of money on the table right now that's enticing, for sure, but at the end of the day, it's not the right thing to do. I also want to say, prior to owning Art and Soul Pottery, I was in real estate for 12 years, so I do know about the housing shortage, and I think that does need addressed, and it doesn't need to be addressed by putting it downtown. So, thank you so much.
Appreciate you taking time to be here.
Thank you.
Next up, Paul Montoya.
Paul Montoya, 1974 Truman Street.
Welcome.
Yeah, we're doing it. Thank you for listening to everyone today. I really appreciate it. You've got a lot of people to listen to. I'm going to try and go through this quickly, and I want to speak to the motion at hand for the postponement. As our city manager mentioned, we have a real housing problem here in Laramie, and we've got to address that. I also talked to Mayor Collins, and I talked to also one of the planning people in Casper. Rave reviews about Stencil Group. I hope we can continue to keep working with them. I think that's going to be important to the growth in our city. However, the issue at hand is releasing the parking agreement that we have with the current landowner. This lot is right now serving as a community parking lot. I feel we need to look at the original intent of our city leadership when they entered into this agreement over 25 years ago. It was felt at that time that downtown parking was needed to encourage and sustain growth in downtown. We're fortunate to have a very vital and vibrant downtown right now. I hear that from people that come visit Laramie all the time. What a wonderful downtown we have. There's rarely a storefront empty downtown, and when there is an empty storefront, it's filled within a month or two. A lot of other downtowns in our state can't say that. A lot of money was also put into the design and development of this parking lot and also the adjacent First Street Plaza. Knowing the background of this parking lot would lead our current leadership to ask the question, has the need for parking in this area diminished at all? I don't think it has. If anything, I'd argue that it's more needed. I'd also highlight that anyone wanting to develop residential housing in this area is doing so because of the vibrant downtown that we have. We need to protect and encourage the businesses that exist in our downtown by eliminating the parking for their customers and the people who want to use downtown is against that. So what I ask you, whereas I'd be much happier with a postponement than a yes to terminate the agreement, I encourage you to not do a postponement. I think you need to make that commitment to the city and to its residents right now that you're not going to move forward with eliminating something that's much needed for our downtown area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. Next up is Eric Henderson. My line on this is not going to change, folks. Please stop the clapping. Eric Henderson. Mr. Henderson, welcome.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for your time. Mr. Mayor, directly, I would take 5-10 hours in order to be best suited to roll forward in our future, this city. And as you are a public service, I sure hope that in your choice, you're dedicated to taking whatever time's necessary to hearing our input, to hearing our voice, to reading all of our emails, to responding accordingly. And 3 years ago, in 2021, 260 North Pine Street was under consideration for infill and up. Density request of 83 in a zone where there had been very few but single or two-family homes on that same footprint. Don't overdevelop this property on First Street. We're going into a threatening posture in attitude with the city to answer a call for housing, which I don't think any of us would be opposed to housing. It's about time and place. Time and place. I believe that that three of you on this council tonight spoke firmly, that you have heard as representatives elected, the vote should be no. Towards the postponement conversation, I would say I support that wholeheartedly. I'm very concerned that this council seems to have an attitude not to listen and it to be a reward to us, the citizens, that you take the time to do what you committed to do on the election ballot, which was to serve the community of Laramie, all of us. I'm recalling a prior city council that voted to abate, to replace 12 to 16 parking spaces along First Street at the Union Pacific Railroad at the end of Ivinson Street and Grand Avenue Streets. We have landscaping. That was not free. We have decorative bike racks. Those were not free, and they're all what they are today. And many people don't realize that the city council supported a vote at that time to abate those parking spaces, up to 16 parking spaces. Not only did they choose to do that during, I believe Councilwoman Guerin was on that group that did that previously. I'm struck because when you decrease the availability of parking, what do you do to your personal assets but increase the value of your own parking lot, to which you have 25% ownership
Mr.
of
Anderson, wrap up
with
your
Bolton,
comments,
with Bolton 75%? I just appreciate the strength, confidence, care, candor, and commitment of three of you right now that are absolutely affirmative with your no, and I'd please, the rest of you, please consider a no tonight and save this developer any more hassle and us any more concern.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
Matt Lockhart. Mr. Lockhart, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for hearing us all out.
You betcha.
And I do want to thank all of the mayor and a few of the council members for emailing me back. So I do appreciate that. I've been part of this community since 1988. I came here when downtown was a bunch of bars, okay? And it has developed since then, and I'm very proud to be part of it. I have a business in town that this community supports, and thank you very much. I do not have a downtown business, but I have their back. I'm not against growth. I want to see us grow. Time and place is the wrong place. We have 18 years left on the lease. When I look at the 76 spots that we have, as we all have read and hear, we lose those, and then we build go down underground one level and then come up two. Recent weather shows you why we need parking downtown. I'm not going to go with my family and park 4 blocks away in 60-mile-an-hour winds to go to lunch, or go downtown to buy at the Curiosity Shop or the Benton Rusty or whatever. I'll just probably not go downtown, and it's going to cost money. I understand they're targeting college kids to live in this apartment complex, and also 50-year-old plus residents. Well, college kids do not have the money that us consumers with disposable income have. They'd love it to go to the bars and hit a few restaurants, but that's not going to replace the money I spend downtown or my fellow friends and associates. Brad Enzi has said with the LCBA, we need 2,500 homes in this town to be able to attract business to come. Ms. Sherwood told me that she's hoping that if college kids move into this apartment complex, that will replace these homes will become available for people that want to buy a home. Well, I will tell you, if I was coming to this town, I'm not buying a house that college kids rented for 5, 10, 15 years to spend $100,000 to make it livable. Okay, I want a newer home. So we need a developer that comes into town that builds homes, much like by Walmart, much like by Indian Paintbrush, what have you. 45%, from what I understand, of the housing in this town is college kids. We need much more for people of our age that are coming to town, for industry to be able to serve their employees. I could go on and on. I've got about 10 seconds left. I just want to know that I hardly ever speak up about anything, but this I have my downtown business partners' backs on this and our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Nicholas Whites.
We'll get limited.
Nicholas Whites. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the City Council, Honorable Mayor. My name is Nick Whitus. I am a homeowner here in Laramie. First, I want to start off by showing my appreciation. I understand for you guys this is a very difficult decision, and I appreciate also the open communication that we've had both on social media and via email. So I come here today deeply concerned about the proposal to terminate that downtown parking lease. in order to facilitate the construction of a giant apartment complex. Preserving our downtown history is paramount to this community, as, everybody can see. It's also disheartening to see that the owners advocating for said changes operate a local business that recently received over $21,000 from this community through a GoFundMe donations, while emphasizing the commitment to the community. The same community that, as it was said earlier, voted 80% out of 2,000 respondents, 80% of this community opposed to this. It's also been argued that the construction of a high-rise apartment is progress. But we got to ask ourselves, is this the vision that us as a community really see? Is this the vision? I suggest we explore alternatives that balance both growth and preservation without having to erode the history of downtown Laramie. I urge the City Council to say no. I know there were talks about maybe postponing it, but and kind of in my original speech, it was kind of like a postponement, but now that no was a real option, I'm going to say no. So I recommend no. We have 20 years to figure out alternatives. 20 years. Ending it now removes 20 years of possibilities, and I don't think the community really prefers that be the option. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Whitus. Andrew Scovegard. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Howdy, folks. Am I speaking in the right way? All right, sweet. So thanks, Mayor Harrington. Thanks, council members, for having me. I'd like to bring up a perspective that I think has only been lightly touched upon so far. And so I know Mr. Stencil had been unable to provide numbers on what this project would cost and what the price for rental units would be. I got a background in trades, project management, property management. I know that this building is going to cost on the low end $10 million, and that gives you a rental price of probably right around $1,000 a month. Sorry for my language, those would be shit units. We don't need any more of those in Laramie. More than likely, this is going to be a building that's going to cost $18 million, and that's going to give you a rental price right around that $1,800 to $2,000 a month, which is not affordable for someone my age. It's not affordable for a lot of people. In fact, using the numbers that Mr. Stencil did provide, he said that 70% of his occupants in a similar unit were over the age of 55. And what does that look like for Laramie? That means that these are people past their prime working age. These are people past their prime earning age, living off retirement, living off savings, living off Social Security, not adding valuable labor to the community. These are people that are going to retire here, which is a great thing, but it's going to drive young people away. And when you tell me as a property manager that someone's going to build units that are costing $1,800 a month, I'm getting happy because I know that if he's getting $1,800 a month for 700 square feet, well, why can't I raise my rent to $1,500 a month for a 1,000 square foot unit? And that's going to drive all these young people away that are going to move to Cheyenne or move to Fort Collins where they can earn more or get a cheaper place. And it's not going to be conducive to Laramie's growth. That's my bit.
Thank you for taking time to be here.
Appreciate it.
Next up is Naomi Nottage. Thank you for being here.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. Naomi Nottage, longtime born and raised Laramie resident. I've been a business owner in downtown. I owned a building in downtown. I still own property on South 2nd, just south of downtown. I was a member of the DDA board. I was there at the grand opening of the parking lot when it was paved and opened. We had plans at the DDA to use that space sometimes on Friday nights to have music and food trucks and all of that kind of stuff. We did that a few times, and as a new thing, it wasn't very well received. And then through the years and everything, all that stuff moved down to the depot parking lot and all of that. I was also past president of the DDA, and I worked for the DDA doing parking. I was the meter maid for a year or maybe two. I worked for the DDA. I came to this building and entered the parking tickets. And I got to tell you, at that time, a lot of people were concerned that all of the people in downtown were using up all of the parking. And yeah, people that work downtown need to park there, and their employees need to park there. I was really incensed at your comment that people need to get used to walking 5 or 6 blocks. My house is 5 or 6 blocks from downtown, so it wasn't any big deal for me to walk to work. But after I didn't have my business anymore, I took care of elderly people, and I took elderly people downtown. It's impossible to drive a wheelchair in the wind. What about, I can walk 5 or 6 blocks, no problem. But what about a disabled person, an elderly person, a person in a wheelchair? What about a mom with 3 kids? I get a better feeling about this person wanting to build this thing because this sounds like he knows what he's doing, but this is the wrong place and the wrong time. I definitely think we need to find him a new place to build in Laramie. We do need housing, and we do need family housing. We've got 1 billion apartments around Laramie, 1 billion. And there's times in my house down on 2nd Street that I do have to walk 5 or 6 blocks because during Jubilee days, everybody's parked in front of my house. Thank you for listening to us and considering a no. Find a different place, and then I'll be all for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nottage. Tom Mattimore?
Downstairs.
He's online.
Oh, he's on Zoom. Thank you, City Clerk. Mr. Mattimore, you should see an invitation to join us in the room as a panelist. And when your camera is on, Mr. Mattimore, the floor will be yours for 3 minutes. Mr. Mattimore, if you are talking, we can't hear you at the moment. I see you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Still nothing. If you're trying, you might see if you've got some headphones plugged in or something of that sort. Mr. Mattimore, sometimes if you log out of the Zoom call and back in, it may solve this problem. It's a bit of a restart the computer approach. I'm not sure it's scientific, but it might work. And we can move on to the next comment and circle back to you when we see you pop back up in the room. And we did receive your email as well, but I would like to hear from you. So, Council, I'm going to move on to Harley Mosley. And then Mr. Mattimore, if you get your audio sorted, we'll come right back to you. Welcome.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
I came here tonight. My name is Harley Mosley. I live in West Laramie, Ward 1, and I came here tonight in opposition of dismantling this lease. And I'm disappointed by the motion to postpone. I think the public has spoken. I agree with all the previous comments tonight, and I hope at some point that the council will vote no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Next up, I might go back to Mr. Mattimore if you've had any luck. Still can't hear you. And I'm sure that's frustrating, so I apologize for that. All right, Mr. Mattimore, we'll circle back to you again. Mr. Glass, you are up next.
Mayor, real fast, we didn't receive anything from Tom. If some councilor members did, if some of...
We'll check, yeah.
Yeah, we did not.
Thank you. Yeah, me as well, but I'll circle back. So it might have just been comments from last week that I'm recalling. Mr. Glass, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, speaking to the amendment that's now on the table, I'd like to speak on and against postponement. I don't think that there's any use kicking the can down the road here. Sometimes you just have to say no so that you can say yes to something that does work, and here's why. Laramie, downtown Laramie, was built with the assumption that public parking would be available. 3/4 of the buildings in downtown Laramie were built to the lot lines with absolutely no parking on their own properties. And this was done with the expectation. The city made a contract. Okay, it wasn't a written contract, but it was an understanding that public parking would be available for the people who lived in and used and came to those buildings and worked in those buildings. We need to honor that contract, and I think it's very important that we do so for the sake of downtown. Now, I want to make it clear, I am all for more housing in Laramie. But there are a number of problems with this project. First of all, we don't want our rental housing to be controlled by private equity. The residents of our mobile home parks are already complaining bitterly about this, and the last thing we need is have it spread from mobile home parks to apartments. Private equity firms are not good landlords. They don't care about our city or its quality of life. They only want to abuse our urban renewal process in this case by claiming the only way you can get tax increment financing is to claim that the parking lot is a slum and a menace to the public, and obviously that's not true. The building would also violate our zoning code. It would violate the Uniform Development Code paragraph, I've got it written here, 15.08.30E1, which states that buildings must be similar in scale and character to their surroundings. And there is nothing in downtown, not even the Connor Hotel, which is the largest building in downtown, even approaches the scale of this proposed monolith. Certainly nothing close to it would be comparable. It would tower over everything, and so it wouldn't begin to meet that requirement of the code. It would also destroy half of the First Street Plaza, which we invested a lot of money in. So anyway, whatever vision we have for downtown, it does not include this project. So I would propose that we not postpone this. We vote this down. And remember, we're voting it down without prejudice. We could come back later and consider something else. But for now, I think we should just vote this down and get it off the table and not leave the community hanging. I have my own proposal for what to do with the land. I propose that we not only hang on to our lease, but look seriously at acquiring it, hopefully with a friendly acquisition, and then, as a previous speaker mentioned, build a 3-story parking structure there with the first story underground so it doesn't tower over other things. It can be made to blend in, and we double the amount of parking we have there for the benefit of downtown. And above all, we keep our contract that we made with downtown building owners to provide them with parking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. All right, do we have Mr. Matamore back yet? All right, no Mr. Matamore yet, so we're going to move on to Martin Buchanan. Mr. Buchanan? Mr. Buchanan?
Oh, that happens to be me. I didn't know.
That's what I thought.
The list.
Welcome.
Thank you, Council. I've only been here for 7 years, so I'm a carpetbagger. So it hasn't been mentioned that the wonderful market that takes place just south of this lot really relies on it for parking, that summer market that we look forward to opening soon. So I'm glad that council's in charge of the city, the people in being in charge of the council, because I was surprised because it seems the city manager takes a strong position on this issue, but you all are in charge. So don't give up 50% of downtown parking for a 1% increase in housing stock. It's worth mentioning the largest employer in Laramie is the University of Wyoming, because about $250 million of state money, and probably tuition as well, flows into Laramie, and it's all there, thousands of jobs at the university. So if you want people to have housing near where the jobs are, I know that when I'm down around 21st, a block or two south of Grand, there seems to be some land down there. And I certainly haven't driven around, but there's plenty of land that's relatively near the university and still relatively convenient to other parts of the city. And really, I think everything, I live in an apartment myself, so I'm all for apartments, and I think that if it's in a different location, that this developer could do wonderful work with the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Buchanan. Nathan Heineke. And Mr. Matamore, I saw you come back in, so we'll get you queued up next. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, City Council. Honorable Mayor Harrington, I'm your friend Nathan Heineke. Long time Laramie property owner, business owner, and resident. I served on the DLBA board when we advocated for the adoption of the Main Street program. I also was served on our DDA board. I was chairman of our DDA board. And was an advocate when we adopted the downtown design guidelines in 2007 that were passed by the Planning Commission and also by City Council. The question that we face tonight, and I'll bring my comments around right at the end towards whether we should postpone or not, but the question that we face this evening is a substantive one, not a procedural question. And that is when Landmark Square was developed commercially, it was required by ordinance to provide parking for that commercial development. That is how we came about having this lease. And so the question is have those needs been abated? They haven't. As a matter of fact, they're probably more acute now than they ever were. Do we have a plan in place to mitigate those needs? Does the city have a plan in place? No. We need a plan. We need to adopt, the downtown business community. We have the information and the data. Is grant funded by Main Street that demonstrates the needs of parking for business and how parking works as the arterial lifeblood for business. And there are very effective examples around nationally and worldwide where housing development works hand in hand with business development, but it's the business development that comes first. And it's not the other way around. And we need to sit down, we need to have discussions with the downtown business community and with the city to make a better plan. And so my recommendation is we maintain the lease. We do not postpone this. And we maintain the lease, but we open the discussions for further future developments for the space downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Heineke. Next up, we have Evan Eganoff. Mr. Eganoff, welcome.
My name's Evan Eganoff. I live at 610 South Pine. I think Councilperson Doherty stole my thunder and essentially stated that this parking lot is an asset to the city. It has a 50-year lease, provides parking, et cetera, et cetera. And with that being an asset to the city, I really think we should vote in a manner that is representative of the city. Most things in life are about 50-50. We see that this proposal is about 80-20. So I won't take up any more time on that. My second point is I kind of want to nip this whole private property argument in the bud because, for example, my wife and I, we own 2 aircraft hangars at the Laramie Regional Airport, which is private property, but we signed a 30-year lease with the city to be on that property. Fully aware of what we're into, fully aware of what we got ourselves into, et cetera, et cetera. When the property owners signed this 50-year agreement with the city, I think they were fully aware of what they were doing too. I think this is a tremendous asset the city has. I think the city should potentially look at purchasing it, making it bigger, multi-level, et cetera, and I really believe we should nip this in the bud and just vote a no and stop wasting developers' time and city anxiety on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shiganoff. Next up is Dana Hazy. Welcome.
I can't hear you in the back when you say names.
Okay, I'll speak louder. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I just don't hear that well.
No, that's just fine. I will speak louder.
Thank you. My name is Dina Hazy, and I moved to Laramie in 2014 and lived here for about 8 years, and for 2 years we moved to Nevada. When my husband got an opportunity to transfer back to Laramie, we jumped at it. Our little town in Nevada didn't have an old downtown. It didn't have that feel of history and the feel of community that we have here. I grew up in a little town called Marysville, California. It's in Northern California, the gateway to the gold rush. And our city council didn't appreciate the historic aspect of our town until it was too late. And now there's plenty of parking because all of the businesses have closed down. It's full of empty storefronts and hobos sleeping in the doorways. I'm not saying that would happen to Laramie, but I would hate to see I'd hate to see your kids not get to remember a beautiful and robust downtown that they have fabulous memories of. I think that the owners of the property signed a lease, a legally binding agreement, and I think that anyone who signs a binding agreement should uphold that. I think that that's what it is. It's legally binding. Why would we just release it because the wind changes? I think we need to uphold that. And I do know that, as the city planner said, that a lot of our young talent is leaving. Well, a lot of our talent are college graduates who came to University of Wyoming with every intention to move and go somewhere else when they were done. That, I think, is just part of being a university town. But thank you very much for your time, and I would appreciate it if we wouldn't keep postponing this, if we would just vote no and just love our downtown and love our business owners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hazy. Ann Brand. Welcome.
Mayor, City Council, I'd like to thank you for the second opportunity to talk to you. And I'd just like to piggyback on that. When I was sitting during our first gathering at the planning meeting, a woman next to me said, oh no, they need to know the value in that agreement, and they need to keep it, and they need to not postpone it, because that happened in Morrison, and I saw that happen. And so I'd like to say to you, happy Preservation Month, because that's an amazing thing. And if you look at all the photographs that my family took from 1905 to now 2024, although they post the older ones, it's the only collection of its kind in the world. Now, do we know that that belonged to Ludwig's? Not necessarily, but that collection exists, and it's the only collection in the world, and it features a thriving downtown that is also thriving today. And I want to tell you, at age 56, that downtown was not thriving in 1986. That wasn't thriving in 1984, when accounts of Ludwig photography shriveled up overnight during the recession and left this state. And I want to say to you, Laramie is unique and special. The fact that they have a nationally designated significant historic district is an achievement. And $500,000 was given to the Main Street program at that time to get the downtown plaza going, to get the historic district designated, which takes years and documentation. It was meant for facade grant facilitation and murals. Why hide your murals? That downtown isn't just a quaint historic downtown. It ties in to national history. It connects the East Coast to the West Coast. The highest point on the Union Pacific Railroad is right at Sherman. That train track, that's the last standing bridge over a UP line in the country. When you stand, so maybe I should have you come on a bike ride with me. My son and I just went last Wednesday. That's why I'm sick. It was such a beautiful day. We rode our bikes over that footbridge to West Laramie, and instantly we're at the Greenbelt. That is an experience. People come here actually to do that. I, in the early 80s and early 90s, would pay the parking tickets that Naomi talks about because I was on the DDA. I would pay them for my customers because they would get tickets when they park downtown. Parking is not easy. On Thursdays and Fridays, there are no parking spaces on Ivinson, and I'm not even by altitudes. But downtown is thriving. That warms my heart. It wasn't thriving when I was expecting my first baby, who's now 23 years old. Saturdays were dead. One Saturday, a car drove right through Ledwig's. Nobody saw it, right? We didn't even know what happened. I got a phone call. You need to preserve Wyoming. You do not need to postpone this. You need to vote. You need to keep your commitment. And I want to tell you, Hanover, New Hampshire, Dartmouth College, they bought a whole town square and made it parking. Why? They wanted the world to experience their downtown. Let the world experience your downtown. There'll be other times. There'll be other opportunities. You don't have to jump at a shining apple.
Thank you. This is a fun exchange we have, everyone. Megan Stonefield, I think. Sorry, I can't quite read the writing. Forgive me. Sorry. That is Megan Stonefield. Forgive me.
My name is Megan Stanfill.
I wasn't even close. Thank you.
It's okay. I'm a Ward 1 resident. I am the wife of a local business owner, and I also run the Alliance for Historic Wyoming. I have gotten many calls, emails, all the time over the past week about this endeavor, and I think everyone has spoken before me on how they feel, and it's just not the right place. It's not the right time. And that's really all I have to say. I don't want to take up any more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Merav Ben David. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and patience. It's getting late. I know the feeling. Just for the record, Merav Ben David, Black Elk Trail, not a city resident, but a county resident. And I'm not going to talk to you about parking, but I am going to call on you to abandon the postponement and vote no on this, because every decent town and city across North America and Europe are moving housing developments away from railroad tracks. Railroad tracks create a lot of noise, and they are detrimental to human health, especially young children. If they can't move them away from railroad tracks, they build expensive and extensive sound barriers. And all you have to do is drive down to Colorado and see what sound barriers they put up just for roads, not even railroads. So, if you're going to approve a housing development for low-income people, you are going to put a health hazard on these people. You will be responsible for damaging development of young children. It will be your responsibility, because we don't have money to build sound barriers for the railroad tracks, and the developer is not going to build soundproof building, which will make it extremely expensive. So I'm calling on you to be responsible and sane and vote no on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana Seebeck on Zoom. Oh, forgive me. Tom Matamore, we skipped you a few times. I just looked at Zoom, and let's go there first, and then we'll go to Diana Seebeck.
So, Mayor, we can try to bring Tom in, but he doesn't think that it's going to work. So he did want me to convey to the council that his vote would be to vote against.
Thank you. And councilors, I do not have an email from Tom Matamore. I misremembered something. So, yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Matamore, and please feel free to reach out. Diana Seebeck.
And Mayor, I'm going to try this I don't know, we have an admin, I'm not sure if that's Diana.
And just so whoever's screen name is admin knows, if you are not Diana Seebeck, you are going back in the queue. Because we do have folks that signed up ahead of time to speak. And it will not be personal.
Okay.
Ms. Seebeck is, oh, there we go, perfect.
I didn't realize I was supposed to change my name. I didn't know admin was my name.
Yeah, no problem at all. We're glad to have you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and City Council, I'm not going to speak very long. Everyone has made more or less eloquent arguments that I would also make, and I did send a letter. So I would just underscore that our city code would dictate that a building like this would require a lot more planned parking than 60, which would also be for rent to residents, which would be a downside, I think. But I would just I appreciate the arguments and history of downtown and the landmark parking spot or lot and all the things that have gone into really revitalizing our downtown. And I have been here for a long time as well, and I know the difference. And I appreciate that downtown is thriving. I think that I would like to hear a lot more from City Council about these proposed parking solutions that were mentioned by the city manager. I'd like to hear more about what's being thought about for more parking for the downtown. And I do think that our priority ought to be for single-family homes to encourage more business and business employees to have a home in Laramie. So I would just say that it would be my urging would be to vote no on postponing and to bring forth another motion and just vote it down. Also in the interest of putting us all at ease and also for honoring the developer. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Seebeck. Rob Harder. And City Clerk, can I just ask, Ann Perry is on here, but it's crossed out. Has that been removed? It doesn't, it's crossed out in the same pen, so I'm going to assume they crossed it out. We'll go to Rob.
Mayor, we did have one commenter come forward, and I'm assuming that's who crossed it out. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Harder, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'll keep it brief. There's been a lot said, and I think it's pretty obvious kind of what the community feels, but I felt obligated to come as someone that has a couple businesses downtown, has been on the DLBA and Main Street Board, and has lived downtown, owns property downtown. So I would say, with this experience, this opportunity coming up, from what I've heard about the Stencil Group, it would be encouraged to follow forward with that, as well as, keeping in mind all these extra ideas that are like, well, we need this housing, we need more parking. Let's not forget about these ideas for parking, because as it's referred to as the P word, it's always something on everybody's mind. And, I'm somebody that doesn't mind walking and feels that, that is good to encourage, but also knows the precedence within being a business owner that, we have 2-hour parking, but it's not really 2-hour parking. So there are a lot of employees and business owners that park where they shouldn't. And there could be a different system to offer better parking for those that truly are the patrons spending money. So maybe put some thought into that. As far as postponement, I think if we go down that road rather than a hard no, it's more of a, let's look at a better place. I think a building like this would be brilliant for Laramie, but I don't know that this is a spot. And I think if this somehow becomes a spot, it needs to have commercial spaces and like a different vision completely than what I'm seeing personally. But it feels like that's not really the direction, so I don't know that that's relevant. So I think that's all I really have to say. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Harder. John Gardaleski. Welcome.
Hi, I'm going to say something different, I guess. I appreciate all the comments about the parking. So back in like 1891 or whatever in Paris, they built the Eiffel Tower, and every single person in the city signed a petition against it. Every politician, every artist, everyone of importance said, stop this damn thing. And now it's on T-shirts. My kid has one. So there is a building that could go there that we would love when it's built. I don't think what we're trying to do is that building. I think we're conflating things really badly here. We have a housing shortage in Laramie, and I'm an architect, sorry. John Gargileski, I'm an architect. I was born here. I do solar installations. I do architecture. I used to teach at the university. I came and presented in front of Shumway and whoever else was here 15 years ago about all the infill spots in Laramie that we should start focusing on and looking at. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've had students for 10 years building on every single lot in downtown Laramie, and I know it goes where, and I know it's going to fit, and I know it's not going to fit. And low-income housing on the #1 best lot in Laramie is not the solution. It's not the solution. It's the type of thing that gets torn down in 30 years because people call it an eyesore. And so what am I trying to say? I think there's a way to proceed. We all want housing, and we like this Nathan Stencil from the city's perspective that he wants to build here. Everyone else seems to hate him. He's a smart guy. He's found the best lot and said, can I get that? And everyone said yes. Or someone probably showed it to him and said, do you like that lot? And he said, absolutely, I like that lot. But and then he said, can you do low-income housing? And he said, I won't make as much money, but yeah, sure, I could do that. If you let him do what he wanted to do, he'd probably do some high-end condos. It would probably be a little bit better for the downtown, make more money, bring more money in, maybe a boutique hotel, something like that. If we want to solve the housing issue, there's a different direction, and I would like to build in this town, and I can't. They make it really hard to get your contractor's license. A lot of people like me can only build in the county if we want to build something ourselves, taking our own initiative, getting a loan from the bank. That's a big issue. And now if we want to think about the lots downtown, let's just form a committee. Let's get people, I would love to be involved, other people like that, and say, what could we do on which lots, and start showing visions to the public so we suss all this out ahead of time. We don't get to this point where we're turning this nice guy who wants to build in Laramie into some kind of enemy of the people. Okay, so I hope I said something new, and I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, and especially the city trying to bring stuff in here. I was on the planning commission for a while, and I got kicked off because I was opposed to the Cirrus Sky development, which I think I proved to be correct in that one. But in this case, I do think we should try to build new buildings in downtown, and let's look at Fort Collins and say what works, what doesn't work, and try having some vision rather than being reactionary.
Thank you. Patrick O'Toole.
Hello, I'm Patrick O'Toole. I've been here since about 1990. I'm 35. I'm a dumb millennial that didn't buy during COVID. So like housing is top of mind for me. At risk of being like leaving covered in tarred and feathered, I'm like a little bit bullish on this myself. But I also do think that like parking is a consideration, and like while a building like this would be really good for like Laramie nightlife, we also have a lot of like daytime businesses that like might suffer as a result, because I know of a couple businesses, like one conversation sticks in my mind where I was at the Spectacle Emporium, and I was in there for repair, and the takeaway was like most of the business comes from out of town, and so well it may be possible to train Laramians to
start with the Zoom. Is that what you're?
Yeah.
Start with Linda Devine on Zoom. Thank you, City Clerk. Linda, we'll have you, when you end up in the room, we'll have you turn your camera on. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I appreciate all the hard work you're doing. When you gave the options tonight, I originally was going to urge you to postpone. However, sitting here and listening to all the folks tonight, I think it's pretty clear what the majority of people are wanting, and that is for you not to postpone it and to move forward with the vote and to vote no on this. I had mixed feelings about this from the beginning, but I think that the message is pretty clear from your constituents on how they want you to vote. If anything good comes out of all of this, I hope that the folks that came out and spoke tonight will realize that their voices do matter, and that council members do listen to them. We also hope that people will recognize that a lot of information that they're wanting that they can find, because the city clerks publish the agenda every single week. That's how I know what's going on. I did appreciate the city manager's presentation at the beginning, but I just think that at this point, postponing it, that nothing would change. And for all those that have been out here advocating and letting their voices be heard, I've got lots of other projects I'm working on and can always use your voice. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devine. All right, folks, the floor is open to public comment. If you'd like to comment, please go ahead. Yeah, please come forward. We're just going to go, whoever's hand is up first is next up. You'll have 3 minutes. We will need your name for the record.
My name is Martin Greller. I live on West Jefferson Street. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity of speaking. I came this evening to oppose the termination of the lease. I felt that the information that had been shared was incomplete, in some cases inconsistent, and not fully considered. It turns out the builder and the staff both agree that that's the case. This was not ready for prime time. So it would not be amiss to take what you've got and vote it down. I'll speak, however, to the possibility that you postpone, because I believe there is some work that needs to be done if you do go that route. The first is your work. You need to decide what it is you want to get from this. Giving up a 20-year lease, which provides a resource to the community, is, at least for 20 years, an asset. It has value. If someone wants you to give that up, it presumably has value to them. What do you want for it? Do you want money? Do you want a community benefit? Perhaps it's affordable housing. Perhaps it's unaffordable housing. Perhaps it's more. I don't know what it is. But be clear on what you want for this and make sure it's part of the deal that you cut, because you will never have the opportunity to release that option, the lease, again. You can regulate and you can do all sorts of things, but you'll be chasing the heels rather than in front of this. Second, what is it that is proposed to be done? And this is as much an issue for Mr. Stencil as it is for you. Is this supposed to be affordable housing or something else? If it's affordable and you go for TIF finance, they're going to be back here saying, and where do we get our tax relief to be eligible for this grant? If I take a look at this, I say, wow, can you imagine what those views are going to be from the third floor up? The mountains, the valley. It's $1 million, well, maybe it's not $1 million view, but that view will go to the highest priced apartments or condos in Laramie, Wyoming. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Not going to have much affordable housing except maybe on the second floor for servants' quarters, I don't know. But what is it that we're going to get so we can make a decision on what it is? Finally, there's the parking issue. It's been beaten to death. The only thing I'll say is I limped up here. It used to be I'd walk 1.5 miles to get to the university, and that was pleasant. Even those young folks sitting in the audience, there comes a time it isn't.
Thank you, Mr. Greller. Any other members, please? We will just need your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Virginia Toffel. Norbert Kriebel proposed changing the location of his building from First Street to North 4th Street. I don't know what he had in mind, but I do know that the city owns some lots, and maybe they're platted already, and they're right side by side with Labonte Park. And if those are what he's talking about, Kriebel, then they're ready to be built on. The city is going to tear down the buildings that they've already moved out of, that are where their houses, the whatever's built will go. And certainly, if the Stencil Group likes the location, and it's definitely got, like Keebert said, it's definitely got some good things going for it. And then on the parking, I originally was thinking, yeah, turn that First Street lot into a parking garage. However, honestly, I think that location is too dangerous. It's right at the end of the row, farthest from all the 3rd Street row stuff. At night, when all the businesses are closed and there's just maybe a few people that live on, up above the businesses. I'm not sure there even is down that far. I mean, it is like this death trap to anybody who, even at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, try to park there. There'll eventually be people that come and deliberately attack them there. However, the lot behind the Daylight Donuts, it's already owned by the city. It's a very short walk into downtown. And it's a very short walk. You basically park there, you walk 1 block, and you get to 3rd Street, and there you are. So I certainly like what you're doing with trying to find ways down in and around the downtown buildings, and certainly it's a great idea, all of that, and certainly put a bunch of handicapped in there. And the woman who was talking about her sister, I'm sure, has lots of good ideas on where they could be. But the 4th Street lot, whatever gets built there, will be compatible with everything else, and it's just a great location. Let's see, was there anything else?
And your time is up.
One more sentence.
Yeah. It's just fine.
And for comparison, the Connor Hotel is 4+ stories high. And I can't even imagine the Connor down on that First Street lot. He was discussing a 6-story building if the picture is correct. So there you have a comparison.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Come forward, please.
Hello.
Hello, we'll just need your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Sienna Hawk. I'm a local artist, a starving artist. Thank you all for your time. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure we all appreciate it. I also want to thank all the community members that have come out. You guys are all really rad. And I think it's pretty telling how many people have shown up, their voices on social media as well, all the emails and letters that have been written. There's a lot of cool people down in the basement that you can't see, but they're here too, representing their voices. And I think it's important to acknowledge that we have seen, we're seeing a big demographic of people turning up for this. And I think that's really important to bring into consideration for this, is that you're seeing Laramie. You aren't seeing one demographic. You aren't just hearing the developer. You are hearing all of these different voices we hear from lots of people that do make up our town. And I think that's really important and really cool. And I'll keep it really brief and just say that we should just nip this in the bud, end this tonight. No pushing it off. anything like that. Let's just close this, and yeah, we're all open to housing, we're all open to this developer. So let's work together for a future project that makes sense for Laramie, because we have our town here that is in favor of it, so. Anyway, I'm awkward, so bye.
Thank you, Ms. Hawk. Any others? Go ahead and come on in. And then I see the one on Zoom. Thank you, City Clerk. We'll just need your name. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Nyoka Erickson. I'm a resident of Ward 2 on Gibbon Street. We all know that we have a housing problem, housing affordability problem, housing supply problem. And I'm pretty agnostic on this particular development, but if not here now, then somewhere soon would be good. Because, I mean, I'm not an expert on development, and the only thing that I know for sure is that we can't just keep doing things the same way that we have been doing in the past and expect that we're going to solve this problem. The second thing I want to say is that I think there's a conversation that we need to have around parking, around the benefits and costs. And I'm also not an expert on parking and development and downtowns by any means, but I've seen evidence that there are downsides to parking. There's a lot of upsides to parking. I don't know that the conversation that I've heard around this development is adequately dealing with the full reality of parking. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you for taking time to be here. Anyone else? Please come forward, and then we're here second. So we'll go here, and Nancy Sindelar on Zoom. Thank you all. Will be next between you two. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Isabel Nichols, and I live just a few blocks from downtown on University, and I'm a walker. I walk everywhere I can, but I can't always walk downtown. There are many times where I have a building, my husband and our family has a building downtown, and if I need to bring supplies in, cleaning supplies, building supplies, because I need to, paint or whatever, I need to be able to do that, and I can't always bring that downtown. There's also the issues, we have places in our building that are also rented out to storefronts and as businesses, and they need to be able to sell their work that may not be light enough to be able to carry. You need to be able to park downtown, not only for the handicapped people, but also people who are shopping and need to pick up something that's heavy. You also need to be able to have parking spaces for people who live upstairs and are bringing their groceries. They're not going to bring their groceries from, way down in one of your large parking spots, whether it's the one we're talking about here or another one that's even farther away. They need to be able to park in front of the building, unload, and then they'll move. But they're not going to be able to do that with the problems we have downtown, because they're circling, and they're circling where their ice cream is melting, trying to get their groceries in. Okay? If we're going to have more apartments downtown, there are a couple of things we need to do. One of them, and I love the fact that one person's already mentioned this, is streamlining permitting. There are a lot of places upstairs on these already beautiful historic places downtown that people can't afford to remodel because of permitting issues, because they're waiting forever, because of the way you have changed the laws on who we can hire to do it. You give all this money to someone outside to put in new housing and streamline the situation so they have an easier time getting through permitting, but you don't help the local people where they could have an upstairs apartment that can help them out during the lean times when we don't have as many people shopping downtown. So please do those two things. Please consider this. We do need that garage wherever we put it, but without a place for people to unload, it's not going to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. We're going to go to Nancy Sindelar and then to you, ma'am. You're next. We got one on Zoom first.
Mayor. Parliamentary procedure. According to our rules, the City Council rules of procedure, it's 9 o'clock. So if the council would like to proceed to extend to 9:30, we just need a motion.
Thank you.
I'd move to extend the meeting to 9:30.
Second.
Okay, motion by O'Doherty, second by Richardson. All those in favor of extending the meeting? Do I need a roll call, City Clerk? Is a voice vote okay?
We do need 2/3 vote, so as long as,
Please go ahead and just call the roll then.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce,
No.
Richardson,
Yes.
Shumway,
Yes.
Somerville,
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk, and you can go ahead and let Nancy Sindelar into the room. For the public, we do have a hard stop at 9:30 per our code of conduct for every meeting that has an executive session, so forgive me. I saw maybe a hand signal in the back that I'm not loud enough. We do have a hard stop at 9:30 that has nothing to do with this meeting. It is just in our code of conduct. If we don't get to the vote, we don't get to the vote. But I have a sense that no one wants to not get to the vote. Nancy Sindelar, please go ahead. You'll have 3 minutes. So I guess I would just ask for brevity if you can.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Short notes. Whether you postpone or kill this proposal, the discussion will continue. Oh, by the way, I live like right across Sheridan from downtown. The old photos of a lively downtown showed buildings where people lived upstairs. I would like to see you change the postponement motion, change it to something that says that we are going to continue this discussion in the manner like we are now, where the public comes in, the council comes in and talks, and for the city to explore ways of making it so building owners downtown can rebuild their apartments upstairs. That's the denser the population, the better. Not this monstrosity building. Oh, and to our history, Mr. Grenville Dodge laid out and platted the size of blocks and the street widths and all that in 1868. And he didn't plan on parking. We didn't have cars for 50 years. Between 1868 and 1920, when the cars started showing up, parking wasn't an issue. So it's not the city's responsibility. We have to learn to change with it. I would like to see you change your instead of just postponing, change it to finding how can we make it so people can build downtown in the buildings that we already have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sindelar. You're next.
My name's Janelle Hansen, and I live on Ivinson. I'm in the historic district of Ivinson. I was born and raised in Laramie. I live in the home that I actually grew up in. I also own apartment buildings in the historic districts of Ivinson, and I'm on the front lines of the rental property. I have many students, young people that are looking for housing. I also have retired people. And what I see happening in Laramie is that these property managements are building what I would call they're starting to, when you look at rentals, you'll get something for $750. It's a room within a shared living space. And that's what I see. It's like these conglomerates that are building, and it's taxing the young people. I don't know how they're affording it, but pretty soon, I mean, it seems to me that all the young people, even like my kids, they pretty much spend all their working hours just trying to pay for their housing in a shared living space. They couldn't even imagine living in a house by themselves. And so what I see is that we've kind of created a feudal system under the young people. And I'm trying to think, how do you get out of that? In this particular project, it seems to me that, to quote Mark Twain, that it's easier to fool people than to persuade them that they have been fooled. And I think they're coming in as proposal for housing when it's really a money-making deal in some very limited pockets. And right now, I grew up in this community. I want to preserve the historic nature of it. This building would be higher than the church steeple. It would block my view on Ivanson of the mountains. And I just think that I look at this downtown district as one of the most vibrant. I was just visiting my sister down in Denver, and they have tent cities. They've been building these kind of buildings down there all over the place, and yet housing is a problem. And it's not because, I don't think it's because there's a lack of it. It's the way we're going about it, really. And I think Laramie has managed to keep from, looking at these they've seen these problems. They're lagging behind, and so they have the ability to actually keep their community, which is a unique, it's a gem. It's Gem City. It's a gem.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Any other public comments? Go ahead and come forward.
Anna Harp. I've lived here for a decade now, and the town has pretty much spoken, and now we want to see it die. We do not want it in our historical downtown that we've worked so hard to be the #1 in the nation. Any other location's fine, any other ideas are fine, just not this one. Please squash it. Thank you.
Thank you. Klaus Haugsbett on Zoom. Your brevity is excellent, folks, as we approach the end of the meeting. And Klaus, once you're admitted to the Zoom call, you should see the invite. We'll just need your camera on. Welcome.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. Wow, what a meeting. I believe Sharon Cumbie started this agenda item that way. Wow. I've been sitting here listening to, I believe, 33 people in a row vote against the termination of this lease. So I don't know why we're doing a postponement, or why. I'm actually a little bit confused. I'm on a few committees and boards, and we try to use Robert Rules of Order. And you did a straw poll at the beginning, and then right after that, when 6 councilors voted to postpone, you then went to a motion to postpone it, and then that passed. So I'm not entirely sure if that goes by Robert's Rules of Order. So I would predispose, after you've heard all of the comments from everybody in the room tonight and online, that you make another motion to rescind the motion to postpone, and then make a motion to vote in favor of not ending the lease. You have had, by my count, 33 people get up and speak against this. I sent you all a letter, and I cannot read that in 3 minutes worth of time. So I hope that you've listened to the citizens, and that postponing this will only make this worse down the road. And I don't see any reason. I appreciate Nathan Stencil showing up and giving his viewpoint. I would love to see him build a complex like that somewhere else in Laramie. Just not downtown, and not in West Laramie. Any place is fair game. I live in West Laramie. I'd love to see that done out here. And ironically, 8 years ago, the city council proposed building a bike path in front of my business out in West Laramie, where I would have lost a whole bunch of parking. And I activated the people out in West Laramie, and we spoke against it. And it actually failed. And I hope this fails too. Parking downtown is essential. There's a lot of business owners I have spoken to. You've heard from a lot of them tonight. I find it interesting that I actually agree with some of them that you've actually heard from, because on other topics we don't always agree on. But I thank you for your time, and I hope that you make a motion to rescind your postponement and then vote against terminating this lease. We don't need to do this right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hausbett. And just by a little clarity for the conversation here, the straw poll was not a vote. So the straw poll was just to get a sense of where council was at, so that the public would know. We are, not charging ahead with a yes on this. For the public, so you all know, if the postponement fails, we'll be back on the main motion, which would be to terminate the lease. A no vote on that would not terminate, or would keep the lease. So it's a lot cleaner than the way you're thinking of it, but we got a plan to get there regardless of where we're headed.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Going once, going twice. Okay, back to the council. Any comments before the vote? I'm going to ask you to be brief because everybody's tired. And we got another meeting after this.
And we're voting on the postponement.
Yeah, and we're on postponement, councilors, and I am going to hold you to postponement. Councilor Newman, please.
So just being transparent then on the postponement, it not necessarily would kill the idea as well. If we vote no, both votes are the same, because the builder could bring back plans and we could have this discussion all over again. And I'll keep it on that, just on the postponement.
Thank you, Councilor. Other comments, councilors? For clarity's sake, what he's saying is if this moves forward, and Councilor Newman, if I misstate what you're saying, please correct me, but a no vote doesn't mean that, it just means a no on the termination of the lease. The developer can still bring us another proposal for, like many of you said, a different place. The same conversation can happen with a postponement. I have been making a list of the things that folks would like us to consider before we bring this back. Largely those are parking, but there are some other things that I have noted. As a part of that conversation, we may encourage, if it is postponed, for the developer to look at other spots as well. It just keeps, I suppose, another option on the table if he wants to propose building a parking garage or building a 2-story building with retail on the ground floor. Those things all have to be included in this postponement, or would be included in this postponement. So my sense, I always hesitate to speak for the council, but I don't think there's the votes to build this building or this imagined building on this lot. I mean, I don't see it. Even the folks that are asking for postponement, I've had conversations where that is not the direction they want to see. The 5-story, 88 units. So conversations are not going to be easy if we postpone. Conversations are going to be probably quite tense between city staff and a developer and private property owners, frankly. And then before we go to the vote, I would just add that because of the nature of this conversation, because this conversation is about a lease on a lot that we don't own, in 20 years, this conversation is back on the table without any of this. No public process, right? This building is allowed in this zoning as a use by right. And so that would be a conversation that could, it would come to Planning Commission maybe, but this could likely just enter through our administrative processes at the city, right? And I think maybe worse than parking, or worse than an apartment building, this could be a Target, right? Like this could be a McDonald's drive-through. To me, those are consequential because you lose the parking, but without any of the benefit. And so I just want to maybe reiterate the complexity of the decision we're trying to make and that you are being heard. I mean, I think that should be quite clear. For the second week in a row, we've heard largely the same things. Our heads aren't in the sand. Like we're hearing what you're saying. And so I guess I would just leave it at, we're really trying to put that into practice, into a vote, and try to figure out a pathway to something forward here, right? We're trying to figure out how we can build an apartment building. If it's not here, then where else? And that requires a postponement or a no vote. Turns out they end up being quite the same. All right, City Clerk, I'm going to have you call the roll. This is on postponement. If postponement fails, we end up back to the main motion.
Gabriel.
No.
No.
Newman. O'Doherty.
No.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
No.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
No.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 4 yeses and 5 noes, Your Honor.
City Clerk, thank you. Postponement has failed, and I'm going to go ahead and just expedite this second conversation rather than, because we have 12 minutes left, I'm not sure opening this back up to more public comment on the main motion is going to serve anyone. I think you're all probably tired too, and it's going to be much the same, right? So if the council's okay with it, I'm going to ask for any comment before the vote. City Clerk, am I out of order to do that? Should I offer the I'm going to offer it because I ought to. The public, if you would like to speak, please come forward.
We gotta call a question here. This is ridiculous.
Sorry, Council, just because of our code of conduct, I have to offer to the public. Mr. Hershey, please.
My name is Ryan Hershey again. You've heard from us. Not one person here has spoke in favor of relinquishing this lease. Not one. You represent us, so please represent us. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's make it just a little longer, one more time. Okay, anyone else? Okay, closing public comment, back to the council. Oh, please.
Hi.
3 minutes.
My name is Betsy Mock. I was not going to speak here. We can nip this in the bud before 20 years from now by rezoning it before it ever gets to that. So we still have time to not make it like a McDonald's. We just do something about it now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Council members, if you are welcome to overrule our rules. Okay. Closing public comment. Back to the council. Anything before the vote? I want to be clear. A yes vote on this can relinquishes our lease. A no vote would be to continue. City Clerk, please.
Mayor, I believe that the motion on the floor is to seek an agreement to rescind.
And so a yes vote would be to rescind, to seek to rescind the lease. City Attorney.
Yes, Your Honor, you cannot unilaterally rescind the lease, and that's why the motion says to seek an agreement. There would have to be an agreement between the city and whoever owns that property now, it's the Gagliardis.
Thank you.
So you do not have the power to unilaterally rescind the lease.
This would be to establish our position as interested in rescinding the lease.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, Council, is that clear?
No.
No.
I'm so confused.
Councilors, a yes vote, I'm going to make this quite simple. A yes vote on this would be to take the position of rescinding the lease. A no vote would be we are not interested.
Okay.
City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
No.
Newman.
No.
O'Doherty.
No.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
No.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
No.
Harrington.
No.
That's 3 yeses and 6 noes, Your Honor.
I guess you owed me one more. Okay, folks, that is the end of the exciting agenda item.
I'm sorry, is it possible to just comment on why I voted and what I would hope to see moving forward?
Forgive me, but you lost your chance.
Okay.
I apologize, but you lost your chance. We are at, councilors, we are, as folks clear out, just so you know, you're at public comment on non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda is welcome to do so. And I would invite you all, as you have your... Hey, folks, we have work to do. If you can take your conversations not to the hall but outside, because the hallway is also quite loud. We have several more things to get through and a meeting to have after this one. So I would invite y'all to quiet down or head out into the hall for your celebratory moment. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items is open. If you wish to speak to the council on an item not on the agenda, please go ahead and come forward in the room. Raise your hand if you are on the Zoom call. Okay, closing public comment. Council, any future work session topics? Councilor Shumway, please. Councilor Pierce will be next.
Quickly, I think I want to open up the discussion again on those parking solutions that were referred to and look for parking solutions for the downtown as well as parking solutions around the university. We seem to, anyway, that would be a suggestion. I think it's needed.
I'm favorable to that as well.
I too.
Okay, it sounds all around, City Clerk.
Don't we have something?
Mayor, we have 2 parking discussions on our list of upcoming work sessions. Downtown parking and enforcement and citywide parking. Do you want this to be a different work session?
That's great.
As soon as,
Councilor, is that okay?
Fine.
as soon as they can get it to us, if we have to meet again, that'd be fine.
City Manager?
Mayor, we were trying to schedule it for early July based on people's concerns that we have to take a break during Jubilee days. I'm asking if we can reschedule the West Side Visiting meeting you've already scheduled for June 25th, push it to July 9th, and instead bring the parking conversation we had been preparing prior to all of this parking discussion on June 25th. I say prior to because that material may not be as comprehensive as we would have prepared had this conversation occurred a number of months ago. So it could end up being a 2-part parking work session. And of course, we did update the council last June as well on parking enforcement downtown and around the university. So we will hopefully be able to do that June 25th, but we may have to have another meeting in August, or you may need to schedule additional work sessions in June or July, because right now June and July is full, and there's a number of other time-sensitive things that we need to get to before August.
City Manager, am I understanding correct? You have options for increasing parking or parking enforcement ready for June?
What was on your work session request list, as the clerk just mentioned, was not including the expansion plans for parking downtown, simply because that's kind of a routine staff thing that we do, is constantly try to add more parking downtown. But we're happy to review what we know right now with council, but it's not fully fleshed out. We may need to come back with a second work session in August. Or schedule a special meeting for you all.
City Manager, I think sooner is better. I think the public is keenly interested, and I think if it does mean sort of an additional meeting in August to have a second conversation about more parking options, enforcement, or additions, great, that's fine. So
as part of, sorry, Mayor, as part of the material we prepared for tonight, we do have that in written form. I'll just send it out to you all, and we'll publish it to the website.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Doherty.
I just would like to make sure that parking consideration includes ADA spots, more ADA spots, and some short-term spots so that you can pull up. Yeah.
I would appreciate that as well. Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you. And the one-way discussion we talked about, I can't remember how long ago it was.
2019.
Was it 2019?
Yeah.
Okay. But the one-way changes would be also helpful.
If you're not hearing that in the back, that was just a note about having a conversation about one-ways is a way to increase parking as well. So it was proposed in 2019. The council defeated it. Maybe worth a second conversation with the public now. Okay. Any other work sessions? Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Given that the public needs to be aware of what our regulations are in terms of building facades and et cetera, I think we really need to have a work session and explain what we have more clearly, have a discussion so that the public understands, council can revisit that as well. So if we could add that, that would be great, because I sense there's a lot of miscommunication about that going on as well. I don't know if it's on our list, but it would be great if we threw that in the mix as well.
Councilor, are you asking for an update on what is allowed in downtown?
Yep.
Okay. Just
thank you.
So I'm clear on it. Anyone else? No one else? Okay. We did not. Okay. Any other work sessions? All right. Council members, we are then at item 18. I'm going to recognize Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that we adjourn to executive session regarding land negotiations, Wyoming statute 16-4-405, lowercase a, Roman numeral 7.
Second.
Okay, motion by Pierce, seconded by Newman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, council members, we're going to take 5 minutes to give folks a chance to clear. Let's call it 10 minutes. We'll meet back here. Thank you all for attending.